Hey everyone, it's your bear boy host Hito here today. Um, Not looking like a bear. Give me one sec. We can't have myself offline without the bear look. Here we go. Three, two, one. Tap the screen. What do we do? Tap the screen. Hey guys, it's your bear boy host Hito here for another Retrogade podcast. Today our topic is third person and arcade shooters. And we are going to go into some heavy debate about these because you know what? Very important to go into these with. Okay, it's going to go into a little controversy. Not bad controversy, just difference of opinions. But you'll see. I'm giving you some foreshadowing. It's fine. Foreshadowing is good. It's always great for the whole thing. But before we continue, our first guest I'm going to announce is a nostalgic gamer for all the ages that brings back those lovely, lovely gaming memories. It's the Nostalgic Alchemist. Wait, what? Oh, camera. There we go.
Hello. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Hey, Hito. How are you?
Doing good. Last time we did a podcast with each other was with Waba, if I remember correctly. That was actually a fun one.
It was a long time ago. Oh my gosh, I don't remember the last time that was.
Back in the yesteryears.
February of last year?
Or I think November.
Yeah, something like that. But yes, yeah. I'm glad to be back.
So, I know you go by Jeremy and the Nostalgic Alchemist and all together. So short, Jeremy.
Yes, Jeremy's fine. Yes, hi everybody. If you don't know who I am, you soon will. My name is Jeremy and I am the Nostalgia Alchemist and I am always here for whenever you remember why. Of course, you can find me on Twitch at the Nostalgia Alchemist, but there is a plethora of other places that you can find me. My whole brand is based on trying to figure out why we become nostalgic for the things we're nostalgic for. So it's a mix of philosophy and also nostalgia, but mostly for educational purposes. I never gatekeep. I want to make sure I keep things open for all generations. You can find me right now on any kind of podcast website that you might get for yourself. Apple, Spotify, Google. I will be coming back onto YouTube soon. You can also find me on TikTok, also on Instagram for those lovely photos. But right now, we're here hanging out with Hito and our other guest, and I just want to say thanks to Hito for bringing me back onto Twitch after a 2-month hiatus for the summer vacay, taking care of my newborn daughter and my son, and just glad to be back. Thanks again, Hito.
Which, congratulations again on the new addition to the family.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. She's awesome. My son's been great with her. It's been awesome.
Let's see an old clip of the Nostalgic Alchemist in their prime.
Yes, let's do it.
Skills here. We're not doing the P-Wing. Oh, we don't have any leaves. No leaves.
No leaves.
Let's upgrade a little. It is the desert after all. Oh, it's the angry...
The angry sun.
The Angry Sun.
Oh my god.
Oh, we love the Angry Sun. And Hito, it's the Nostalgia Alchemist. I changed it to an A from the last brand change.
Oh, from the last... The Nostalgia Alchemist.
That I unfortunately had to get rid of.
Oh yeah, because copyright infringement, patent pending. You can't do that.
Trademarking is something. Let me tell you.
So the Nostalgia Alchemist, just to be very, very safe, because things happen. Don't worry, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
Our next guest is the pony-rific and also very opinionated pony, the Cinnabites of everything. We are going to be welcoming in Mecha Dragon 101. Boom.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Welcome. Thank you, Hito, for inviting me to your lovely podcast. Nice to meet you, Nostalgia.
Yes.
Alchemist. Almost got that wrong.
Yeah, Jeremy's all good.
So I guess I have to give an introduction for myself. Yeah, like Hito says, my name is Mecha Dragon 101. I'm a V-Pony person, as you can see. I play games on stream on and off, mostly just like things that I like to play, just like games I'm in the mood for. When I get back, we're gonna play some more fun games and whatnot, and yeah, if you can follow me anywhere, I have the same name for literally everything I have, honestly. So hopefully that's enough information.
Hopefully it's enough information. Let's see if you got a clip, because I know this is gonna be hilarious if we got one. Let's see what we got.
Oh, was I supposed to send you a clip?
No.
Sorry.
We get one automatically.
Oh wow. Did it freeze?
Yeah, your clip was too epic for it. What game is this?
There
It
we
looks
go, we're
familiar.
Shovel Knight.
No, we're not good. We're good.
Oh, it is Shovel Knight.
Yes, I
A
think we
great
beat
game, Shovel Knight.
we beat the first Shovel Knight version. I think let's go Shovel Hope. Currently playing Plague at Night at the moment. My goal was to try and get through like all the games of Shovel Knight as sort of a backlog thing. Since I beat the first one, I haven't beat Plague of Shadow or the other two. I forgot their names. So maybe we'll play some more of that. Looking forward to the Knights one because that one has a card game attached to it. So that's gotta be fun when it gets to that.
Sure.
Don't worry, we'll get there eventually.
Shovel Knight really is a good callback to all of the old classic gaming, and to this day, it still brings a tear to my eye in a good way.
I had
It was-
a YouTube video up on my older channel of Shovel Knight that I did during the midst of the pandemic, and it was actually one of my favorite videos I made. So I'm definitely gonna have to find the raw edit, re-edit it, and then put it back out because I'm really proud of that one.
Definitely. All right, guys.
Yeah.
So we're here today to talk about third-person/arcade shooters, and there's a big
Yay.
reason why I put these together. I put both of these together because of the fact that they share the same aspect in gaming. A third-person shooter is something seen as you are able to see the character and what you're shooting at the same time. Things like Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil being some prime examples. But I put it together with arcade shooters because the same aspect is there. You can see the character as you're shooting along things. So I put them together for this special topic to not only spark a debate. Yes, we love to spark debates here, but also to understand that why these two can actually be seen hand in hand together in the third person aspect. So that's why I wanted to put those two together. So any thoughts coming from you two about the reason about third person/arcade shooters altogether? And
Mecha Dragon, I can let you take care of this one first.
Yeah.
You may go first, sure. Yeah, like I did, as I said, did a little research on this. It's probably too late to access, but like arcade shooters, you also mean like the ones with the light guns, like
I mean that
House of the Dead one.
that would technically count unless they're in the first person view.
Okay, I see. So no, like I said, it makes sense because you're basically shooting something out. I played a bunch of them as a kid up to now. But yeah, there's a fun. I can name a bunch of fun arcade shooters and stuff. I mean, I can't wait to see your argument about how they're very similar since they seem kind of like apples and oranges. But I trust you. You're smarter than I am.
No. You got this. Okay, you got this. You're okay. All right. Nostalgia? Go for it.
Yeah. And you can call me Jeremy. It's
Jeremy.
fine. I'm trying to get out of the nickname thing and
That's
just
fair.
use my first name.
That's fair.
So yeah, it was funny when you asked me to do this. I was thinking to myself, there is a very strong dichotomy between the arcade style shooters and the third person and the third person shooters. I do remember just before we went live that Mecha, you actually brought up something interesting about platforms, and I actually want to start with that.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying about platforms? I didn't quite hear you. I was actually distracted.
About how like it's like the basics of video gaming and like you shouldn't trust anybody who doesn't like platformers since it's just gaming 101. You just go from point A to point B. That's simple and stuff. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, you said something to that effect. I see third-person shooters in that respect more like a mixed platformer. Not necessarily what a lot of our and the younger generation would define as a first-person shooter, obviously. But there are platforming elements involved. But in a shooter, let's kind of define what I think of as a shooter. For me, a shooter is Space Invaders, Asteroids, Gradius, or Gradius for those of you who are pure, UN Squadron, R-Type,
Arizona.
Ikaruga. Those to me, in my mind, are shooters. So a third-person shooter, I don't know. I see it more like it's like you were saying Metal Gear Solid or Resident Evil, at least the first couple of games for Resident Evil, the ones with the tank controls. Yeah. Gears of War. Yeah, I see those more of like Mega Man, jump and shoot, that kind of a thing, I mean, there's a lot of platforming aspects to it.
I mean, those games you automatically jump though. I think you don't actually press the jump button on it unless you think of like Ratchet and Clank, where like it's kind of a third-person shooter, so you do shoot and stuff like that. But
it is
there is platforming mechanics in it, so it's kind of a mix of both in that way.
So
yeah, I don't know. Go ahead, Hito.
So from what I'm gathering is like a third-person shooter has more of the aspects of a platformer within it because you can see the platforms and also still shoot at the same time, as opposed to an arcade shooter where things are a little bit more static.
Yeah, in the arcade shooters, you mean, in the classic shooters?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a one-screen pony in a way. You know what I mean? Like when it first started out, it was just what was that joke in Futurama where the army came from space to invade the Earth, and they're like, "Everyone, drop down 2 feet and go to the other direction." Drop down another 2 feet, go to the other direction. And Fry is just like sitting there. And there's this. Oh, I have to digress for a moment. There's a great Twitter account that every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, he plays the clip of Fry going, "All right, it's Saturday night. I have no date. A 2-liter bottle of Shasta and my all Rush mixtape. Let's rock." And he starts playing Space Invaders in the base and the little ship that they made for him for that episode. It's great. Anyway,
I think I saw that tweet. I was like, "Oh, that's clever." But then I had to Google what Shate is, and I'm like, "Oh, it's a soda I never heard of and stuff."
But yeah, like the reason why like I said before, the reason why I brought these two up because they spark debates. Like, so yes, arcade shooters are more static as opposed to third-person shooters where they're a little bit more fluid and give you more time constraints. And I actually saw this debate and wanted to make this thing for a while. I saw this debate for quite a while, in fact. Now the thing is, that was the argument, but then part of me was like, sure, the enemies are static, but your movements are not static. You, as the shooter itself, are not static. You can control the flow of the game, especially if you know the patterns of your enemies, or even better, if you're able to expect the unexpected on a majority of levels. So part of me was like, this is a really sparking debate between third-person and arcade shooters, because at the end of the day, yes, they seem similar, but they have their slight twist and differences. But they also have many of the aspects that go together. Enemies that are coming at you, you shooting and you developing the flow of what you can do in that game. I can tell you the biggest one that kind of related the two together at its best was the Metal Gear series on the NES and Master System, because that was a third-person shooter, but of course the enemies were static because back then the memory wasn't that great for creatures or enemies to actually do whatever the frick they want. So that's kind of a big one when you think about it. It's like, I kind of want to call this thing a third-person shooter, but it has arcade elements of the static enemies. So at the end of the day, it's just, they both work. They are so similar. It's kind of like it's kind of like in South Park where you're comparing goths and emos and they're trying to explain the differences between the two, but you just see the whole thing, and it's kind of like
I was just about to say, so we're talking about third-person shooters, right? Like third-person 3D, right? In that realm. Okay, what about rail shooters? Now, by rail shooter, meaning that you only have control over your reticle. You don't have control over the actual person. Would that be considered a shooter?
Like Pokemon Stadium? Snap?
Yes, like Pokemon Snap. Yeah. Another great example is Time Crisis or House of the Dead, where you can't control where your player moves. You literally just control where you're aiming. So would we consider that a shooter?
So technically, this is where I go into this technicality. Technically speaking, most rail shooters are in the first person. Like, as you said before, you're following the reticle.
Yeah.
You are following the reticle. And usually the reticle is in a first person view. You could technically consider rail shooters with first-person shooters at most, technically speaking, because most of those are in the first person.
Right.
They can fall under that category that rail shooters can fall under the first-person genre because of the fact that most of it's in the eye view. Like, you can see it as your own personal thing. Some are third-person rail shooters, like Kid Icarus Uprising can count as a third-person rail shooter.
Which is, by the way, if you haven't played Kid Icarus Uprising on the 3DS, please do yourself a favor and go play that game. It is so underrated, so good.
I have to buy the game, but I heard it's a difficult game to control at the same time.
It's a difficult game to control. You have to get yourself like a stand to kind of like use the stylus or your thumb and then use the thumb pad. But once you get the hang of it, it's like I'm a Star Fox Zero apologist in that I love Star Fox Zero and I will defend it, even though its controls are flawed, but it's still a great game. But that's a discussion for another time. Actually, you know what? Can we actually bring that up? I just thought of something. Okay, so we're talking about Kid Icarus Uprising, which is a third-person rail shooter, which, yes, absolutely, so is Star Fox.
Yeah.
Yes. So, okay, Mecca, what are your thoughts on Star Fox? Have you played it?
Series itself or just
any game in the franchise.
Aside from Adventure.
I never played Adventure, just know about the furry waifu Adventure. That's probably the only reason people know about Star Fox. No. I played them. I played mostly the 64 version as a kid. I played the second one when it was on the Super Nintendo Classic. I liked the game. I remember when I was a kid, I'm like, how the hell do you save it in 64 version? And I looked up, you can't. So I'm like, oh, okay. Which is great that they put out the 3DS version. But no, technically, yeah, you could count as a third-person shooter. I'm sure there's another word for games like that where like you're in a plane or something like that. I can't think of one right now.
A third-person rail, because you're on the rail. You're not free going. But you know what's really funny is that the actual shooters like R-Type or Ikaruga or what was the other one I said? Even the 1942 through 1943, 1944 games. Those also, Twin B is another fun one. Xevious is another early one of those versions or those types. You're still doing the same thing. You're moving around and you're aiming and you're shooting. But like, I don't know, something like Time Crisis at the arcade. It's first person, but you're shooting to make sure you are going in the direction you want to go. You're shooting at certain items and enemies to progress your own story and make your own paths. Like, could we call it that? You know what I mean? And I love Time Crisis.
Yeah. But
I mean, in the broad sense, yeah, I could call it shooter because you are shooting something.
Like at the end of the day, we can always call all of these games shooters because they have the shooting elements in it. And then you have first person and third person that are kind of there. And then you have arcade shooter as well that's also there too. But then they also branch into these other things like rail shooters or probably guided shooters. There's run and gun as well. Technically, that's also a third person aspect. You could put run and gun. Things like Contra and Cuphead come to mind when I think run and gun.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's true. But go ahead.
No, I was gonna say about Cuphead. I asked them for advice from like a bunch of people about like shooters and how they use Cuphead. They're like, Cuphead's not even a shooter; it's a running gun. So, do you consider that the same as third-person shooter or something?
I would consider it a third-person shooter, but I'll also call it a platform run and shooter. Just kind of like Contra. It's kind of Contra-based, or Metal Slug is another example too. Metal Slug is a big example of like that.
So
era.
this is more of a discussion of subgenre.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can totally get into this. I like this because when people who are probably watching this conversation in this podcast, they're into video games. You know what I mean? Like we are. That's our audience right now. Mm-hmm. These are people who are into video games. For people who aren't, or for the younger generation who know app games, pretty much for the most part, the explanation of this is the interesting part. You know, how do we explain what each of these different Epic Man worlds a video game? Sorry, I just saw that. That was really funny. Anyway, but I think this is an interesting topic, though. Maybe we are limiting ourselves at third person and arcade shooters, and maybe we need to venture a little bit more into a platform subgenre of, you know, the Mega Mans and the Cupheads and the Metroids even. You know what I mean? I mean, that's an adventure game. Let's try to like figure out where our cutoff is. Maybe this is where the debate lies. Where's the cutoff? You know, because someone could easily turn around and say, "Oh, Super Metroid or, you know, Metroid is a jump and shoot platformer." And yes, it has jump and shoot platform elements, but it's an adventure game, you know? So now we're into a whole other, you know, mess of problems.
That's exactly why I did this on purpose. See, this is why I wanted like people to like go into this one with like no knowledge of like subgenre to begin with, because the big one there is essentially actually I'm gonna let the hidden words actually come out from this, because now I'm gonna do what this actually is. So this was actually a joke way of doing this. That's not the actual title of this. I actually hid this from everybody who was participating today. The real target of this,
oh no,
is subgenre shooters.
Oh no!
Yep, that's right.
So I nailed it.
So you tricked us?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did this.
Man,
I did this
I miss
on
Twitch
purpose.
so much.
I did this on purpose. You know what? Slightly for the meme, but also for the fact that this is important. Like, it's not a bad idea to talk about subgenre shooters. And subgenre includes arcade shooters, third-person shooters, first-person shooters, rail shooters. It includes all of it, all aspects.
All right, let's get into it then. Okay, so
that makes things a little easier to understand now. Thank you, Hito.
Do you see why I said you had nothing to worry about, Mecha?
I always worry. That's my special talent.
So where do we start? Let's see. Let's start with oh my gosh, Hito, you have almost the same thing I have.
I mean, I need this. This is
the
hydration.
Cheers.
Station. The hydration station. You got this.
I didn't even carry that everywhere you go. It's so huge. I would not be able to fit in my bag.
It's a gallon of water. I don't carry it at the warehouse. It's too much. I just keep it in my fridge at home.
This is like what, 56 ounces, almost 72.
Mine is.
It has like the time.
Mine is a gallon.
Anger.
Anyway, so let's start with everything up to and before R-Type. Let's go there, because there was Space Invaders, there was Asteroids, there were I guess Millipede and Centipede. You can call those shooters, you know. But then came Defender. Yes, go ahead.
Wouldn't I would consider like Millipede and Centipede more like kind of a puzzle game / something. Like, I know you're going for pieces to grow yourself bigger, but you also have the puzzle and tactic of this is to just get around not eating yourself. It's kind of like Snake.
Kinda, but you're still shooting the snake. You're still shooting what's coming at you.
You're going in the direction of, you're guiding the snake into like the place to eat.
No, you don't control the snake in Millipede and Centipede. You control the little ship at the bottom.
Oh, that's right. I'm thinking of something. I'm thinking of Snake. Oh my god. I'm thinking of Snake.
Snake is a completely different game. I think in Centipede you have to use the trackball to move the guy around, right?
Snake IO. Sorry, I'm bugging. Anyway.
I just say I like Centipede because of. No, it's got to go on.
So, right. Okay. So we have like those stagnant one screens. You know, Space Invaders was so huge that if anybody who watched the Netflix docuseries High Score,
yes,
yeah, they call them invader houses. Like that's how big, like video games started with that whole space age like point of view. You know what I mean? Like the invader houses, that's where everybody went to. All those Japanese businessmen, they went in, it was smoky rooms, and they just played Space Invaders to de-stress. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, that's a good question. Would you think that Space Invaders is overrated? If you're looking at it now as somebody who was born from at least 2005 on, yes, probably. But again, I don't want to gatekeep. I'm not Gen Z, so I can't really speak for anybody who was born to a certain point. But I can see that up to a certain, era of where you as a human being were born, you could see it as overrated, but you have to understand that everything has an impact. And I think that the impact is the way that we see if something was overrated or not. What kind of an impact? Like somebody might say, in a music sense, that the Beatles might be overrated. I don't know whose opinion that might be, but, someone might just be able to say that. But in my humble opinion, no, Space Invaders was definitely not overrated. I think that it was one of those pop culture phenomenons that actually stuck, and actually people learned how to progress with that type of game into the next way of doing things, which was what I was going to say a little while ago was Defender. Defender was one of the first shooters where you had a scrolling screen and you had an objective. Like your objective was to make sure that aliens didn't abduct people.
Yep.
And that is a really big step forward before we get to an on-rail shooter that we think of today, like R-Type.
There you go.
I was just gonna say, I don't think it's overrated at all. I think it's just as popular as, say, Galaga. Because they both kind of like similar gameplay, except that Space Invaders is like a bunch of aliens you have to kill all at once, while Galaga is a little bit more action-packed. So I guess it just depends on when you were born, or just like what kind of playstyle you prefer, if that makes sense.
It's funny. I honestly had forgotten for a moment about Galaga, and the fact that they mention it in Avengers, and that is a joke that everyone knows. Yeah, Galaga definitely is up there.
If anything, I think Galaga is more of a shooter than like Space Invaders, because Space Invaders
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I would say Space Invaders is probably more of a shooter game, so you have to be more intensive and stuff like that. Well, I think Space Invaders, it's like a more technical shooter, because you have to like think your moves ahead. Like, okay, this guy's gonna come here, this is why I shoot. Also, there's like a theory where like either you shoot the shields or do you shoot the aliens. It's like, which playstyle do you prefer? If that also makes sense.
You know what's really interesting too that you brought that up? I just thought of it. It was that you're only allowed to shoot one at a time. Like one laser or one projectile at a time. You can't rapid. It's one at a time. So you do have to strategize. You do have to plan where they're going to be. That's interesting. In both games.
This is where
that's interesting.
This is where I bring up the Netflix documentary, as you said before, Jeremy, which was essentially how people were picking up on patterns, and now how people were making chips to actually change up the patterns, make it a little different. And that's where people started like coming up with ideas to start doing hacks and ROMs for these arcade cabinets, so that way they can arcades do not lose the money that they need to have. Like that's essentially what that whole thing was about, like getting the chips in a different way, so that way enemies, instead of them going right, they go left, or they go diagonal, or they come at you at the screen in 3D because they feel like it. I don't know, some shit. But
that's how Mrs. Pac-Man was born.
There you go.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what it was. So now we're at a time where we have those arcade shooters still to their variant, but now we recognize those patterns. They're static along with it, and that's kind of how game development gets into play. It's just hacking and ROMing, which that was another
That's another beast to tackle.
That was another beast that we already tackled on July 12th. So
oh, really?
Hacks
cool.
and mods. Symmetric, nice. Alex, if you're here, thank you for being guest on that one. But all in all together, like that's the baby of where we're going into with subgenre, which was the arcade shooter. And things like Galaga, Space Invaders, Missile Command will be another one at the time too, which didn't sell well, but they tried.
it's funny. I think about this now. The evolution going from those, top down or side shooters to 3D. You don't find Metal Gear Solid or Resident Evil in the arcade. You don't find them there. You find the rail shooters in the arcade. And that is interesting. So what can we do about that? Do we say, oh yeah, that's a shooter, or do we call it a rail shooter? Because when you're doing the UN Squadron or Gradius or Salamander, you're in full control of where you are to avoid what you're doing. But to transfer that to 3D, you get Star Fox. But that's not necessarily good for the arcade. It's good for the home. So where's the lost in translation of that? Where can we pin it?
I argue with that. You could probably make a 3D shooter work in the arcade if you have like those. If you want to be fancy about it, you can maybe get like a chair and like the rotating thing like that. I don't think that's an actual arcade game. I'm just thinking like that would be kind of cool if it was like a 3D shooter game. You know what I'm talking about?
I think
like the Star Wars ones, like with the.
Yeah, like you're basically in a cockpit of a simulator, basically. I don't know if that actually exists.
That's a good innovation, but I will say I think the part that lost in translation, a lot of things, is the introduction of
subscribe and do the thing.
Sorry, that sound effect came out of nowhere. But essentially, I think the loss in translation comes to story. And this is where things come into play. When stories started getting introduced in these shooters, now people are not focusing on getting the high score anymore, as opposed from getting to parts of the story that they want to get to. Star Fox being a multi-branch story, as an example, how depending on which path you go to, you can change up the story kind of dramatically at its end. And honestly, that influences Star Fox Command, which was one of my favorite DS games to go into. 12 different endings. Enjoy it.
In Star Fox Command, really?
Yep, for the DS. Really good game,
for
honestly.
Crying out loud.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So, I haven't beaten that at all. So that Star Fox Command was a difficult game for me. I should pick it up again.
It was tactical / it goes in except okay.
Right, it's like Star Fox 2.
It's like Star Fox 2. Yep, it's essentially what it was. That was the building blocks for Star Fox 2 and they put it in Command.
I think technically Command is like the last Star Fox game in its story.
It is.
I think.
It is. Because of the fact that it ends in 12 different tangents, where it could be 1 minute where Fox is living in a nice home with Crystal and, a future generation is born, from Dash, Andros's grandson making the new Venom, new place, to Star Fox and Falco just saying, fuck it, we're going to become new racers in F-Zero GX and actually turn our R-Wings into G-Diffuse vehicles. Let's do this.
What?
Yeah, yeah. So F-Zero and Star Fox are very connected together in that same timeline because of that, by the way.
That's a mention. I think you could technically play as Fox's dad in F-Zero's GX, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. That is correct. That is why they did that. But you don't turn into his dad. It's James. They just change into James F. McCloud, which is supposed to be the whole thing. But yeah.
What? That's blew my mind.
But
whoa.
And so that's. I mean, I don't know. Until Nintendo gives us a new Star Fox game, it's not the Toys for Life one that we got a while ago.
Yeah. But
Starlink, whatever that is.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it for a second. Sorry.
But all in all together.
Yes. Okay. Wait. Story. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's actually. I just had an aha moment. All right.
You mean epiphany?
Yeah, sure. The epiphany. Yes, of course. Words. Thank you. So, okay. Wreck-It Ralph. Right?
Yeah.
You got this girl going in to zap all the bugs and everything, right?
Yeah.
Literally, Jet Force Gemini, if it didn't have the story as embellished as it was, you could potentially put that game in the arcade.
And you know what? You could technically do the same thing with Star Fox. If it didn't have a story and you focused on just going on all these missions on different planets, and then if you made the whole ring around and you did a Pac-Man and let's say repeated the level but made it harder, it would technically still be considered an arcade shooter. Because now, story elements gone. It's still racking up points, by the way, because Star Fox does rack up points.
Yeah.
And you could pull off that whole thing.
Wow.
I mean,
okay.
arcade game can have a story though. Just because it's an arcade game doesn't mean it can't have a story. We'll have a very bare bones story, but
Right.
a
That's
story's
what
a
I
story.
think. I think that's where we're getting at.
Yeah.
Is that it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to delve.
It doesn't have to delve, but when it does delve, that means we start losing trace of it being what it can be, which is an arcade game. When stories are more delve, we get lost in the story, which is not a bad thing. It's always good to get lost in a good video game story. However, we lose aspects of it naturally being an arcade game, an arcade shooter, and it becomes more of, as Mecca said earlier, a home console game where we're focusing on the story. Many of these games can be arcade games that we have now, especially since they do rack up points. Hell, Mario Kart Deluxe is an arcade game now, and they put 4 cabinets right next to each other so you can versus everybody. And just that concept alone, there's no real story in Mario Kart. But competitively in an arcade community with 4 people right next to each other, they can race each other. And that's kind of a competitive arcade mode there, but that's an example of like, when something doesn't have a story, it can always make a great arcade game.
Okay, so I'm trying to just process everything. Okay. Sorry. All right. So we're on the topic of story, right? Okay. Let's just say that House of the Dead, right? House of the Dead 2. Terrible voice acting. But it's something at least to the most minimal bit of cohesive. But it's in the arcade.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a goal in mind. There's like a finite goal. Whereas in an old arcade shooter, it's just get to the end, defeat the alien overlord, you have saved the earth. You know, like, but there's no meat and potatoes. So now are we going to say, oh, that a top-down or side-scroll shooter is now different just in terms of story to that kind of a shooter? Are we cutting it off there? What do we call it? Or am I thinking too deep into it? You know what I mean? Like, I might be thinking too deep, honestly.
No, you're making a valid point, because when you think about it, yes, an arcade game can have a story. But once again, as I said before, like, if it's not lost in the story and it's just not about like getting to that story's mission or whatever that's going on, then I think that's where we can keep it at the arcades. For example, if the game is like, hey, you need to follow this mission because it's a part of the story, then so be it. But if the mission is just to rack up as much kills as you can, to rack up as much points as you can, to rack up basically anything, I think we can consider that in the arcade section. For example, Street Fighter is another game. Using this as an example, I know it's not a shooter, but Street Fighter is another game that is seen in arcades. And your score gets racked up for how quickly you beat your opponent, how much HP you keep in. If you perfect throughout the match, that adds extra bonuses. And you know what? It's in arcades because it's still of that point sequence right there as well. So sure, it does have a somewhat story convoluted plot as it is. But
yeah,
there's still the points that add to it. So I think if anything, we can dumb down arcade shooters, let alone any type of arcade game for this matter, is it can have a story, but it can't get so lost in the story that it has its own missions, and you're still racking up points. And you're still repeating everything at the end of the day with that same formula.
I forget though the sort of on topic, but Luigi's Mansion also had an arcade shooter too. Have you ever seen those on Dave and Buster's?
Yeah. And my son and I played it, and he was like so excited. Yeah,
it's fun. I like it. It's kind of like somewhat like House of the Dead, but more family-friendly version. You have to suck up the ghosts. It's weird because so much Nintendo players are like, I wish I could play that. I was like, I see those all the time at Dave and Buster's. Just go to nearby.
But it's a rail shooter. Essentially, that's exactly what it is. It's a rail shooter. But it's a first-person rail shooter.
They should find a way to put that on the Switch. I'm sure they could make it work or something.
Mm-hmm. You know, here. So we before we continue, we are going to avoid first-person shooters,
Yeah.
right? Correct? Are
Yes.
we? Okay,
Yes.
so we're going to avoid those, right? Okay. Now,
Like Overwatch.
yeah, like those,
Yeah.
and Doom and GoldenEye. We're going to avoid those. So, okay, but we still get the first-person aspect behind the rail shooter. So so for tonight, we will avoid those games that you have full control over your character through a first person.
Ta-da!
Okay, good.
But is it
I
like,
just want to make sure we're all on the
is it
same
our-
page.
Is it our rail shooter similar to that? Because like your example, talking about Snap, you don't see yourself.
Oh, no.
I mean, sure, you're.
Oh no, yeah, it's first person, but we're not using that as an example. That was just an example of a rail shooter in general. Not
Yes.
not the
Right.
fact that it was like a third person. Just to clarify.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I was just clarifying. You're all good.
You're all good, Mecca.
All right.
I'm never. Okay, great. So let's actually take a step back. Let's go to the N64.
Mhm.
So I had mentioned Jet Force Gemini. We mentioned Star Fox. Let's talk specifically about Star Fox 64. Were there any others? I feel like there. What was Perfect Dark? Was Perfect Dark first person like GoldenEye?
Yes, it was basically Larry's version of GoldenEye. That was
Okay. So we're gonna have to. Got it. Okay, so we're gonna have to avoid that. What about Mega Man Legends?
Mega Man Legends is technically
That's
a
third
third
person.
It is a third
Because
person.
yeah,
Okay, so Mega Man Legends. Let's discuss that because there are specific like role playing elements to that game. But do we consider it an RPG with shooting elements, or like do we stick to it as a Mega Man franchise game where it's jump and shoot first, RPG later?
It's more like strategize RPG first. For example, setting up your weapons, setting up everything they have to go into, and then going into the battle. So there is some strategy in between it. I just finished beating Mega Man Legends last month, so that was actually
Cool.
a fun little experiment to go into. But I'm not gonna lie, if you up all your stats with no problem, you kind of plow through the game with no issue. It's a big thing that you can look into. For example, I upped all my stats, but I didn't really use my special weapon as much.
Okay.
So essentially, yeah, you have to set up your character to do all of these great moves. And that's something that RPGs have in elements, but its concept of battle is a third-person shooter.
Okay. Yeah, because that's another breakdown that we have, where you're, it's almost like those 3D Metroidvanias, where you have to progress through the game in order to get stronger, in order to go back and do other things. So, okay, we got another subgenre. Yeah, it's really interesting how we're dissecting these different franchises that appeal to different types of gamers or gameplay, because there are those who are really into RPGs, or there are those who are really into Mega Man, or there are those that are really into shooters. We have to kind of figure out the form here. So what's another one that we can talk about? We haven't talked about Metal Gear Solid very much yet.
Which I could go into
I
that
honestly can't talk very much about Metal Gear Solid, so this is actually my chance to hear and learn.
All right, so with Metal Gear Solid, starting off with its original NES/Master System release, was technically an isometric shooter. I say isometric because you can see everything from the top view. And
Right.
in
No,
the
I'm
third person,
familiar
of course.
I'm familiar with that, but I don't know if I'm familiar with the later 3D gameplay and story elements.
I'm gonna go into that. I'm gonna go into that.
Okay,
in a second.
sorry.
Yeah,
very
no worries.
convoluted.
So essentially, with that NES version, the stealth wasn't really implemented as much. You had to basically cut corners to make sure the guard doesn't see you in this isometric setting. When we go into the 3D ones, all of a sudden with Solid being the case, Solids 1 through 5, you have to now navigate with all your new skills, being crawling, hiding, shimmying, making noise to distract guards to come away.
Cardboard smash boxes.
Basically, all of that. And the other good
okay.
news about that is using these other strategies in the game help out a lot. This is called and it's even on the game. It's called Tactical Espionage Game. It's a tactical espionage game, but you are shooting as well. You can go from using your tranq darts. You can start using a regular gun. You will automatically be forced into first person if you're using a sniper rifle, because technically speaking, a sniper rifle will need that much focus. And it's stuff like that. It's like the little complements of like every type of gun you're using. And it works really well as a third-person shooter. Most people don't like to lock on to things. That's why in the second game they add the auto lock on. So that way you can still do things from the top half of things and go into it. I myself like to go into first-person mode a lot in these third-person shooters. However, it still works all around for it to be a third-person shooter. Because mind you, I'm not just shooting a gun. Half the time, I'm just throwing something from the distance to make a noise. Or sometimes I'm just dropping a porn magazine on the floor so the guard can get distracted. Either way, it still works. And yes, that's an actual thing.
So it's redirection.
Yep. It's all about getting the guards to either be distracted, knocked out, and getting away with the situation without getting caught. It's a stealthy third-person shooter.
Interesting.
And this is where I also go into my Resident Evil tangent, because a lot of people are like, Resident Evil's a horror game, and I'm like, it has horror elements. It's not a horror game, and here's why.
It's a survival game.
There you go. It's not a horror game because of the mere fact that you're finding weapons to overpower this thing. If it was actually a horror game, I'd be running for my fucking life.
I mean, have you seen what's the name of the character from Resident Evil 2? Mr. X or something?
Or Nemesis. Is that Nemesis?
Yeah, those guys can scare you.
Yeah, they can scare me, but here's the thing. If I'm not running for my life, I don't feel like it's horror. I feel like it's survival. That's the end of the day. That's the end of my little rant right there. Because
right. Oh, wait, hold on. I was scared when playing Resident Evil 4 demo. Oh, yeah. You know what? Okay. Can we talk about, and what's her name on TikTok? The blonde DB, or what's her name?
DB Geek.
DB Geek. Okay. So I follow her on TikTok. She said something that I was just like, ooh, okay, this is something that no one's ever brought up like before. She despises Resident Evil 4 and what it did to the way Resident Evil carries forward from there, from the days of tank controls. So let's break that down. Now, on one hand, I actually enjoyed Resident Evil 4 as a standalone, not necessarily as a fan of the franchise, because I scare easily. So I don't play much Resident Evil as a whole, but I do understand that these the tank controls of the original, do we classify this as a tank shooter? Like, is that like because of the controls? Are we limiting now, or are we like saying no, survival horror? Or are we gonna go off of gameplay?
I think gameplay should always kick into the thing. I think where we mix up gameplay and theme are two separate things that happen. For example, we could call Resident Evil horror because that's its theme, or genre in this case, but the gameplay presents as a shooter, a first-person / third-person shooter. Hence a survival game as well, because your character needing to survive the whole thing. Hence why it's called a survival. It's called a survival horror with shooting mechanics.
What Epic Man World said. Yeah, that's what Epic Man World had said. It's definitely survival horror. But now we have to talk about the over the shoulder, because it almost treats itself as a first person.
Mm-hmm.
Almost. Whereas in Metal Gear Solid, from the gameplay that I've seen, there are different camera angles. There's different things that happen that allow you to stealth and allow you to do other things. Whereas in Resident Evil 4, it is strictly over the shoulder.
Mm-hmm. So
it's hard to determine if it's a third person, even though it has quick time elements and all that jazz. You're still over the shoulder. So what are we where are we going to place this?
Is it a second person shooter? Like,
Second person.
We're in another dimension. My
another
God.
dimension. We just do that right there. It's just like, is it a second person shooter? I don't know. We'll make up terms until we find the correct one. No. But essentially that's the thing that goes into it. Like I said before, because most of these shooters are sub-genred, or better yet, they are devolving slower and slower and slower into these other branches. That's where it goes into play. For example, someone could say Contra's a shooter, which you are shooting. Yes, that is correct. But also it's a side-scrolling it's a side-scrolling game. It's a side-scrolling platformer with the shooting elements. Again, run and gun, which is why Cuphead is also under that third-person shooter motif. You can see the whole point of third person is you can see the character and you're shooting at the same time. You can see the character as he's shooting. Okay? For example, this is my gun. This tangy barbecue sauce is my gun. You can see me throwing it across the face and blinding somebody in the eyes. That's me shooting my tangy barbecue sauce at somebody. You saw that from my peripheral. That means, at the end of the day, you saw it in the third person. You saw me throw tangy barbecue sauce at somebody. That is my gun.
Yeah, it's hard because when it comes to Resident Evil, there is going to be that cutoff for the certain types of, players. I don't want to say fans. I want to say players. You know, there are players who will prefer 0 through 3, and then there are players who will prefer 4, and let's skip over 5 and 6 and then go straight to 7. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely a split there in terms of how they want to enjoy the game, how they want to play the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess that has a lot to do with what kind of entertainment they want to get out of their gameplay. You know, that's also important. What kind of entertainment do you as a player want? Do you want to have a little bit more immersion, or do you want to see it from a different perspective and be able to have a cinematic control over a character? You know, like that again, it comes back to a gameplay, a personal preferred gameplay style.
You want to see your character at all in the game too? Just saying.
Other games that I can include into this third person list is Max Payne, Hitman, Saints Row, Grand Theft Auto. These are other third person shooters that have these many elements to it. Splinter Cell's another one. Like
Going back to the second one.
It's the second one, Max Payne and Hitman.
Yeah, Hitman.
I was gonna say, going back to the Resident Evil thing. What if we just have one broad genre, and underneath it is, like you said, a subgenre? So, for example, Resident Evil, it was supposed to be like a horror game. It was based on a very scary NES game. So from there, it could like get more and more specific. So like, okay, it's a horror game, but it's also a shooter. What kind of shooter? It's a third-person shooter. We can go into specifics when it comes to that. That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's how it's supposed to be. Like, it's going to keep going into those subgenres because you have to look at things like the genre of the story. It's kind of like going into a movie theater and seeing what genre of movie you enjoy. Do you enjoy action? Do you enjoy horror? Do you enjoy comedy? That's the theming of the game right there. Then you have to look at its gameplay and its building blocks. Essentially, what are you doing? Oh, I'm shooting. How are you doing it? Oh, I'm doing it either by tactics or I'm doing it in action-wise. Like, these are things that are very important to the subgenre category, which is why I wanted to make these subgenre third-person shooters a big thing when it came down to it. Another game that I can say that worked really well at third-person shooting was Dead Rising. And and mind you, you could shoot anything in Dead Rising, okay? You could shoot an actual Mega Buster if you get it. Okay, but all in all together, like, Dead Rising was another of those third-person shooters. Were you able to hit somebody with a physical element? Yes. I, for one, am a fan of going into the mall, putting on a dress, and beating somebody with a purse. Yes, I have done this in Dead Rising. It is hilarious. But you can shoot with guns, and it is a third-person shooter. It has one of those elements. Instead of just doing just hack and slash, you can switch to just shooting from a distance and making sure that these things don't come after you. Sniper Elite's another one that goes from third to first person quite often because of its whole aspect. And then another third person shooter, which is in an action game itself, is Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider's another one with the third person aspect.
But not a shooter.
Third person shooter as well, because she is using guns. She is shooting. She is mostly shooting, actually.
Yeah. Oh.
She is mostly she's mostly dual pistoling it all the time. Literally in the air half the time, like she's in the Matrix.
All right, chat. Here we go. Is Tomb Raider a shooter or a platformer? Let's go. Chat, talk to us. Here we go. This is where I draw the...
It does have shooting elements, and you could count that game as a survival game since you're trying to survive the jungle, especially the later installments.
It's a platformer with third-person shooting elements. Like the action...
Right, but is it a shooter?
You use a gun, so I'm guessing it's a shooter. You shoot things.
No, my brain!
This is... Do you see why I made this thing as a debate now? Do you see? It makes you think. It's a philosophical question.
Which I am all about. That's why my brand exists. Okay, so all right, let's take a step back. Let us all breathe. All of us at home, breathe. On your device if you're watching, breathe. So okay.
Open up your calm apps, people.
Yep, open up your meditation apps. Okay. So Tomb Raider. Okay. A lot of people will see Tomb Raider as like a puzzle game. You know, in a way. You know, it's an adventure puzzler, right?
kind of like Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
Yes, but now we have a gun. So let's hold the phone. All right.
I mean, can you count the...
Wait, does Link count as a third-person shooter now?
No. We're not gonna. No, I'm not even going there. I'm smarter than that.
I think if you're full health with Link, you could throw like a beam sword. Does that count as a gun too?
No.
No.
That would consider hack and slash at that point.
Right. We have to draw a line here. So let's actually think about this now. This is actually really cool. And I was just plundering through my brain for a moment. So as we come out of the depths of my laughter, all right. So we are presented with a situation, subgenre of adventure and shooting. We already discussed Mega Man Legends in the sense that it is like a tactical RPG element first, jump and shoot later, right? We've established this. So now let's see what we could do with something like Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider, I think, is an adventure puzzler first, shooter second, shooter later.
That's how we defeat the enemies, technically speaking. Yes. Like, I think when we look at it now, we have to look at what we're doing and how we're defeating enemies. Those are another way to look at things when it comes down to it. It's like, okay, I am adventuring. I am solving puzzles. Oh, look, an enemy appeared. How am I handling this? I'm shooting them with dual pistols.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the breakdown, I believe, that can go into this. It's like, okay... Because I will say this right now, most games have the aspect of battle in them. Most games have enemies to take down. If they're not, then they're probably somewhere between simulation and just enjoying things like Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing, you don't have any enemies unless you consider Red an enemy and you just want to take him down for chipping you off with some art. My point is...
I chucked them into the ocean. Sorry.
You're good. Okay. But yes, all in all together, every video game has enemies, and how you're taking on those enemies is a key element to the gameplay, i.e. to its genre, a.e. to its subgenre. So, I look at it like this. Metal Gear Solid. It's a stealth game. It's all about being sneaky first. An enemy appears in front of me. How am I taking it down? Either CQC or physical combat, or I'm taking a gun and putting them to either sleep or killing them. Depends on what gun I decide to use.
Mm-hmm.
That's the breakdown right there. What kind of, like, for example, what kind of story does this game have? It's action. How am I traversing this game? Being sneaky. How am I fighting enemies? Gun or hands. You can catch either one. And that's the breakdown when it comes down to it. I think that's the final line of the breakdown from there. So let's look at. So
your main means of conveyance for defeating an enemy is by something that is a projectile, or like that kind of a from third person.
Yes, from third person. It depends on what we're using, and if it's either a gun or something that is considered for shooting,
right?
Third person shooter. If I'm seeing it from the aspect of the character, third person shooter.
Right. So, I don't know if you read my
Twitch I saw that Link's crossbow training Half-Life 3 confirmed. Oh my god. But yes.
It's an old internet joke, everyone. Sorry, I'm dating myself here.
So again, now we break down Tomb Raider. What kind of game is it? It's an action game. How are we traversing through things? Walking around and solving fucking puzzles and moving around the place. How are we defeating enemies? Guns. 2 of them. Left and right.
From the leg.
From the leg.
You could probably count Tomb Raider sort of as a horror too, because like you have to survive the jungle. There's a bunch of like scary stuff in the jungle. Like
then that would be considered survival.
That would be considered survival.
I mean, I'm just saying. I haven't played Tomb Raider game in a while, but I mean, like, don't most of the animals just like sneak behind you if you're not careful?
I mean, it's still survival though, because you're trying to survive the animals. Again, difference between horror and survival. Horror is essentially something that's meant to be scary and scare the shit out of you. As in survival, you just have to survive as long as you can. It's kind of like having a
horror is the main means of conveyance.
Yes.
For the story.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Theme, I guess. Theming.
Another game exactly that goes into this play, Assassin's Creed. We use this as a thing. I'm not putting it as a third-person shooter, of course. I'm doing it more in the case that we have here. Although guns were invented, but that's kind of more up close and personal to like shotgun someone, because that was the time that they were stuffing the barrels with gunpowder.
Don't shoot till you see the whites of their cloaks.
Basically. If we go into that, we are going into, it's an action RPG. It also how you're traversing stealthily to make sure you kill your opponents. How are you killing? Hidden blade or anything from afar. Anything you could basically get your hands on. It's it's a quote that actually let's show that comment on the thing. Hey. Let's see. No.
What's that?
There we go. Angela said it better than anything else. Assassin's Creed is a third-person stabber, which great, fantastic. We could also say Link is also a third-person stabber or slasher. Some may call it a hack and slash. I'm kidding. Hack and slash is where you're taking down like multiple enemies at once, pulling a Dynasty Warriors. But
let's get back to macro. Yeah.
But back to third-person shooters. Another one I brought up was GTA. GTA is a third-person shooter.
Let's talk about that.
That one's more of a modern or crime story, whatever you want to call it. You know, the gangsta story. We love this, except it's more modern. How are we traversing around this world? Killing hookers and stealing their car and running everyone over and committing all the crimes you can. How are we committing said crimes? Lots of guns and lots of cars and lots of stealing helicopters with missiles. These are all third-person aspects because you're seeing the player do this from a distance. Can you zoom in? Yes. Can you zoom in at eye point? Absolutely. But do you have to? No.
Was that like on purpose?
What about Mafia? Epic brings up Mafia.
Ooh, Mafia. I've never played Mafia, so I'm not sure.
I have sadly not played Mafia, and it's probably a crime in someone's eyes, but I have not played
It's a crime in someone's eyes.
Mass Effect is another one with RPG elements.
Another game I unfortunately haven't had the opportunity to get my hands on.
My partner will kill me since I have not played Mass Effect.
Oh, really?
He's a
Yeah.
big Mass Effect fan.
Oh yeah.
Have you played Mass Effect, Mecca?
I played a bit of it.
Okay.
I know the history of Mass Effect, how it was like one of the best RPGs. I mean, well, action RPGs. But see, is that considered a shooter or an RPG?
Well,
Basically.
Right.
here's the thing. That's where it goes into play. How do you fight in Mass Effect?
You use your guns.
And can you see your character as you're shooting the
Yeah.
guns?
Yes,
It's
yes,
a-
you can.
It's a third-person shooter.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is why we're here.
There we go. See, we use the
Okay.
tree. What is the theme? Sci-fi / space travel.
Okay, so what about a twist stick shooter? Does that count as a third person shooter? Like, what's the name of the one in the arcades where you use like a twist stick? It's based on a game show. What is it called?
Twist stick game show.
Deal or no deal?
No, I said
Sorry.
twist stick.
I'm kidding. I'm
Bop
sorry.
it.
It's Bape.
I heard twist stick, and I'm thinking twist it.
No,
Hold it.
twin stick shooter.
Twin stick
It's a-
shooter.
It's a
Oh,
popular one.
you're talking about like the ones that you do from like ships or anything. You're like, I'm gonna the twin stick thing that you use to like steer the ship,
No,
and
like
then
you
you're
move
just
one analog is used for movement, one analog is used for shooting, basically.
yeah. But here's the
If that
thing:
makes
can you?
sense.
All right, so again, this goes. Into
You
play.
mean the? Oh, I know what you mean. Twin stick. I
Twin
get it.
stick.
Like Smash TV
Smash
or
TV, yes.
yeah,
there we
or,
go. I just googled it. Yes, Smash TV
yes,
is a big example.
Smash TV and what's the other one? Total Carnage. Yes,
Yes. That's what I mean. Or Binding of Isaac is a better example.
those
That-
are definitely shooters.
Those are definitely
Yeah,
shooters,
but
but
it-
like, are they third person or first person?
Third person.
There you go.
I mean, you do see
They're
your
top
opponent.
down.
Yes. Or Enter the Gungeon is probably a more recent one, to be honest.
Also, Angelus
Mhm.
asked about Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve isn't okay. So this is a hard one, considering the fact that yes, you can see your character shooting a gun, but you're doing it through an RPG screen. That's the issue right there, because you're still choosing the command from an RPG screen. You're kind of like tactically choosing what she's going to do on that turn before you do anything. That's the breakdown right there. Sure, you can see her shooting the gun, but you are making that choice through RPG elements.
Okay.
So I wouldn't count it as a third-person shooter. I would count it as its horror survival RPG type status goes. So it's a tactical shooter then. In some case, yeah, we could say it's a tactical shooter.
Right. So it's a tactical shooter.
Especially
Okay.
if she's
but it's
just-
still a shooter.
It's still a shooter, but it's a
Right.
tactical shooter. It's again, it goes back to Star Fox Command being a tactical shooter. You're choosing where you're going to go. However, you still
Right.
have free range of where you're shooting and how you're doing it on a time.
Right.
limit.
You still have the ability to control your character and your R wing and be able to take down enemies. Right.
Exactly. Another
Yeah, yeah.
tactical shooter, technically, because it's a card game, is Metal Gear Acid. Most of the characters are attacking with guns, but they're in cards, technically speaking.
Yeah, you get
Okay.
acid. I never heard of that.
Metal Gear Acid is very it didn't sell well. They didn't like their Metal Gear with cards. They didn't like the trading card game. It was one of those trading card games that never existed anymore because it sucked. But I liked Acid personally. It was fun.
Acid.
Yeah.
I have
Metal-
something that we could correlate this to my analyzation from earlier when we first started
Mhm.
with rail shooters. Can we talk about games that utilize a home zapper or a home, super scope? Like Duck Hunt, Hogan's Alley, Wild Gunman. The Super Scope 6 had Yoshi's Safari and Battle Clash, and
So sadly, we cannot, because those are considered light shooters, and this is the reason why I can't consider a light shooter as a third person, because you
Okay.
yourself are the first person when you're shooting those guns. But it's immersive first person shooting.
What does that mean, immersive?
Immersive meaning that you
I
are the
get-
one shooting everything
immersive.
from your point of view.
so where do we leave that with House of the Dead and Time Crisis?
Again,
Where do we leave that?
they are again immersive first persons, because at the end of the day, you're not seeing what's going. You're not seeing the
Right,
character
okay.
shooting. You are also shooting from that first eye perspective. It's kind of like you're in the game. It's kind of like, again, it's the immersion of you being in that situation from a first person view. That's why I can't consider light rail games like Duck Hunt or Hogan's Alley to be considered a third person.
So we literally have to use games like Star Fox and Jet Force Gemini as the ground basis of where we need to go. We have to detach. Okay, so
again, it has to be just as detached as an arcade shooter where you can see your ship shooting everything.
Basically, you want us to have a long range attack and be able to see ourselves to make it count as a third person shooter.
Ourselves as the character, right?
So again, go back to what I said earlier. Does that make Ratchet and Clank technically a third person shooter? Because you shoot things and you see your character and whatnot.
You do have shooting and a lot of shooting at that. It's kind of, as I said before, switching between melee and shooting in the game. It's also a platformer as well.
Oh. I just think it's stupid.
It's a whole it's a whole mix match of different subgenres in that game. Because again, going into sci-fi as a theme, how are we getting to things? We're traversing platforms and getting through gates and collecting things. How are we battling enemies? We are either wrenching them to death or we're shooting them to death. So yes, technically it does have shooting elements. It can count as a third-person shooter, but it can also count as an action, or it can also count as an action game because you are also swinging a giant wrench around like crazy.
Now, okay, a few more things. Sorry for taking the spotlight here.
You are good. Keep going.
Wait, can you refer back to what you said at the mall the other day? Well, like I asked about Gunstar Heroes, if that counts as a third-person shooter, and you said it technically doesn't. Is it because of the same reason you said earlier, where like it's technically 2D or something like that?
It's a 2D platformer.
Yes.
And along with that, it also gives you the choice of using a sword or gun. Once again, it goes into we got to go into this again. What theme is it? It's sci-fi. Technically speaking, Gunstar is sci-fi. We go into what we're doing. We're getting from point A to point B. Platform goals, essentially. But how are we getting through all the enemies and stuff like that? Swords and guns.
So that's okay. So Contra, Gunstar Heroes,
Cuphead,
shooters
of a third-person variety, run and gun.
Right. Okay. So then, right. Okay. So we're still in line with like Smash TV and Total Carnage here, because we're still traversing while being able to have a shooter element.
Subscribe and do the thing.
Right. Okay. Good. So Gunstar Heroes, we are calling out a shooter.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
It has its third-person elements, but it's also an action platformer because of the swords and other stuff.
Right. Okay. So action platformer. Mm-hmm. So a la Mario. Right. Now we have guns.
It's like if Mario can walk around with a giant gun. We've broken it
down again. Right.
So once you include a sword, it doesn't count as a third-person shooter anymore, does it?
No, it has the elements still of that situation. We just broke it down into its branch category, which is an action platformer and a third-person shooter. And technically speaking, you can go into that and also call it run and gun, because you can run around and gun, just like in Cuphead. Although Cuphead is strictly run and gun because there's no swords.
I mean, so because there's a sword doesn't mean it can't be a run and gun anymore.
I didn't say that. I said that is one of its branches.
Right. That makes more sense if we put it that way. Yeah, I guess that you can see it that way. But then again, it's a 2D game, not a 3D game, which is what third-person shooter means or something.
Third-person shooters that you can see the character.
We're still able to see the avatar. We're still able to see what is on the screen.
Yeah. Third-person is not literally subjectively to just a 3D platformer or a 3D shooter.
I mean, like, that could be. They could use that example for almost anything that has a gun and a guy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but
which is where we're trying to figure out where we draw that line. Like Mega Man is a perfect example of trying to define what it is. I mean, the main process of that game being a platformer first is you jump and shoot. Yep, but is it considered a shooter?
Exactly.
That's the question.
And this is now where we finally found the breakdown. What is the theme of Mega Man, Mega Man X, etc.? Sci-fi. Again, that is its theme. The way to traverse the game. Platforming. You're going A to B. So it has the platforming element into it. How are you destroying enemies? Swords and guns. Mostly running and gunning. It has the third person element into it, but it's also a platformer first because, again, how I said, how do you traverse the game from going from point A to point B via platforming?
I think it just depends on what its main genre is. Like, I was about to use this as a joke answer, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Where like, if you consider Spyro a third-person shooter because they have levels where you kind of go in third person, you shoot things, but that's not his main genre. His main genre is platformer. So maybe if we just
actually,
like,
there's no third-person element in Spyro.
isn't like the whole gliding thing technically third person?
No. Because the thing is, with the gliding, you're still doing a ranged breath attack. You're not doing it from, like, a distance.
It's not a projectile.
Yeah. The only time it is a projectile is when you get the super flame power-up. And even then, yeah, it's kind of like that, but it's not a physical projectile type thing. It's strictly a platformer. Because, again, remember how we went into the traverse for Mega Man? It's still strictly a platformer because that's how you traverse from point A to point B. It just has the element of run and gun, of third-person shooting.
That brings up a good point. If a game has, like, a section that's similar to having third person thing, does that make it count as a third person game? If that makes sense.
No. I think it has the part of it, cool. If it has the part of the if it has the part or a segment of that, cool. That's all great. But is it its primary function? It's always good to have segments that are different in different games just to give it like a different type of spin and break from the action of the original game. But is it the main point of the game?
No, it's not. It's just a thing to break the monotony, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, the biggest example I could give for this was the remake of Battletoads that came out as of recently. The Battletoads game that came out, it was a mishmash of many different genres, from platforming to beat 'em up to shooter to visual novel to gunning. It was ridiculous.
You
could not nail it on a single genre. And I think that's when you break down games to a percentage of what it's for or what its main entity is. That's where it gets difficult. That's why I said with Battletoads being that one was a mess. Like, it was a mess of genres.
Battletoads is for masochists anyway.
You're not wrong.
And that's
watching humans do that glider bike thing is just.
That was another thing. That was a speed.
Okay.
That was a speed level. That was all in like dodging and reaction. That's another thing. That's pure speed. Like, this is where I will go into, like, this was one of the games that were such a mess. Like, what's the game for Battletoads? Fantasy, technically speaking, fantasy beat 'em up. How do you traverse from point A to point B? There are too many fucking ways to traverse from A to B that I can't even just give you a straight answer. And then what are the subcategories? Again, there's way too much to traverse from point A to point B that I cannot give you a subcategory on how the combat's done, because it's done differently. Like, that's a big example of, like, wow, this was too much. Holy crap. No, this was too much.
Kif, we have a conundrum.
Exactly. These are examples of, like, looking into things. That's why I say, like, the traversing, like, how do you traverse a game and how do you defeat enemies in a game count really big into these questions of what's a third-person shooter and how it's done, and also just subgenrering everything for its matter.
Thinking. Let's see. Well, I think we broke down a lot of at least very well-known games and franchises to bring up our own arguments and to healthily debate what we're categorizing and putting into each subgenre. But if we're getting back to macro, let's talk about the shooter itself. Like, a shooter is a means of using a firearm to defeat an enemy. Not necessarily a gun, but it could be a laser from a ship.
Mhm.
It could be a projectile from a ship. It could be a projectile from a as the main means of defeating an enemy.
Yep.
So, shooter. I see a shooter again as something like Ikaruga. I see a shooter as Space Invader, Defender, Galaga, UN Squadron, Gradius. Those to me are shooters. Period. That is definition ultimo of a shooter. Now we have to transfer to 3D. What is it? Again, it's Star Fox. You have full control over your vehicle. Your main means of destroying enemies is a projectile, lasers. So, shooter, and it is defined as an on-rail shooter. So, on-rail had to be the defining transition from 2D to 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So, getting that, keeping that in mind, is that the shooter ultimo genre, period? Is that what it is? And then we go from there. Mm-hmm. Or is there something above that? You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm at now.
I think shooter would be the highest definition out of everything that we just broke down today.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, as we look at arcade games such as Space Invaders, Galaga, Gradius, etc., UN Squadron, we break them down little by little, especially in 3D when they've been broken down completely now. When we go to 3D and it's like, okay, now we're going into our first persons and our third persons and our and our 3D rail shooters and our 2D rail shooters, etc. But now we're going into run and gun. We're going into basically all of these different things that go into the different subcategories. Shooter is definitely the mass majority. It's definitely what it's going to go into, and it's definitely the big outcome when it comes down to it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I'm just trying to think out loud in terms of if there was anything else that goes further beyond that. But I mean, technically, there couldn't be back when video games were in their heyday. There's a golden age aspect of the arcades. And that's not counting home console. I'm talking about arcades. If the golden age of arcades says this is a shooter, we define it as such. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're getting we're getting to the tier list now.
Woohoo! Tier list.
These are all 3D versions. These are all 3D third-person shooters.
Ah!
Tier list time?
Yep, tier list time. And if you have not played these games, this is inspiration to actually touch them.
So we're done discussing like the plot of a third person. I think I did a good job with that, right?
Yeah, we did listen, I'd like to say that we did a great job just talking about the aspect of shooters and their subgenre. And going into subgenre third person shooters, we definitely nailed that one on the head. We've talked about all the third person shooters and its differences to other shooters. That was actually great. This is what I was looking for, and we got what we were looking for.
A heated argument. We healthily debated, everyone.
I helped.
Now, guys, I just want to say this. Let this be an example on Twitter on how to healthily debate. A debate,
yes.
Please. We did this really well, showing respect to each other and not calling each other stupid and mindless.
What was it in the Silk Sonic album, Uncle Bootsy? He was like, "Take it from me, Uncle Bootsy. Ain't no shame begging in the rain. Tell them how you really feel."
I definitely like that one. Oh my god. But yes, essentially that was our debate, and now tier list.
We shall list the tiers.
All right, so we have masterpiece, great, very good, good, average, disappointing, bad, and trash.
Oh wow, that's a lot of options.
We only have this much options, so we're
no, I meant like of tiers.
That is fair. do we have one in this pile that we can consider a masterpiece?
Oh man, hold on. Sorry, I'm old and I have to squint.
You're fine.
Hold on.
I already see my masterpiece already.
Kif and large. Okay, so let's see. All right.
I guess maybe Grand Theft Auto 3, since technically that was the game that started the whole overworld craze back in the PS2 era. And
Is that your masterpiece?
Right, you only get one, right?
Yeah, you only get one masterpiece. Yeah, you only get
What?
one. You only get one. You only get one masterpiece.
I know the rules of this game. Let's go down the list, and then if I think it's a masterpiece, I'll let you know then.
Let's see.
Sure. I already got my masterpiece down, and I'm putting Saints Row the third.
That's your masterpiece?
I have never played any Saints
Why?
Row games.
So I'm gonna make this clear. The reason why we have 2 tier lists on this, by the way, we have these and the arcade shooters afterwards. So just know that that's gonna be like a lot of things to introduce. But the reason why I chose Saints Row the third is because one, they had a breakdown on how to portray women in the game, which was much more better. You can now have a fat woman running around beating people up with a dildo bat. That is, is it necessary? No. But is it something that we would
family-friendly
want?
price range, but okay.
But to play it all out, like the character can be anyone. They actually made it as a defining
That's
feature.
cool.
If we were
that's cool.
And if we were to compare it to like a game, let's say like Star Wars, Old Republic, where if you played as a female character, you can only be skinny, and that's it. Like we don't have such thing as
not cool.
As we don't the game thinking that we don't have thick, voluptuous women that can actually be represented in the game, then I don't want to be part of it, and therefore I enjoy Saints Row the third. And actually, Hey Ash, What You're Playing was the one who actually brought up that interesting debate, and honestly, it did great. It did absolutely great because, mind you, she was fangirling over this game, and I don't blame her. I don't blame her. It was really.
I meant the dildo part.
Oh, that's fine. The penetrator accepts the situation. It's not family friendly. We get it.
I mean, I just like how Saints Row at first tried to be like GTA ripoff, but then it became his own thing after that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is good for the game and whatnot.
Epic, I'm going to beat you with the penetrator if you ever say that again.
My name is Jeremy, the Nostalgia Alchemist, and I approve that message.
All right. No, because
Okay.
2 was also just in that same rip-off version of GTA. That was the problem.
Okay.
And the reason why is because 3 changed up what can make it different from what GTA was. Hence why I enjoy the third one, because the third one took a chance on trying not to be a GTA clone.
Now they're going to reboot it to basically be one.
So, Binary Domain.
I've never played it. Anybody in chat, please chime in.
I'm also going to add a row below. It's going to be called, not new, but never played. They never put a never played choice here. It's like, I always got to do it.
Yeah, realities are SMC, right?
Like, I always got to add the never played.
See, whenever I think of a tier list, I only have four columns to go across. 4 rows, I should say. Only 4.
Yeah, this one was kind of like, hey, let's.
This one's a lot.
We're
I'm like,
deleting this row.
gosh, I have decisions to make. These are choices.
Hold on, I got this. We could make this easier.
Let's see.
We don't need good. Good is great, average, bad. Let's get rid of. We don't need to call a game trash. We could just say
Right.
bad.
Yeah.
There
Just
we go.
bad.
So
Okay,
there we
cool.
go.
Yeah,
Better.
this is more manageable. All right, here we go. All right. Next one. Let's see.
007 Bloodstop.
Never played. Anybody else?
I heard. I mean, I guess this game must be kind of like the first inclusion of Daniel Craig's into the modern game. So I'm guessing it plays similar to GoldenEye in a way.
Have you played it though?
I haven't yet, but I saw playing gameplay videos of it.
No, because here's the thing. I want you to actually tell us your experience of the game.
Right.
Like, that way it's like fresh.
All right,
Oh, man.
I haven't played it. I'm sorry.
Next up is Control.
That I have played a bit of it, to be honest, because it was on it's basically on every platform nowadays. It's good. It's very like it has a very complicated story because it's like you have I didn't play much of it, but I did play like how it's like it's about you owning a company and then you have to look into it and stuff. That's the story of Control, right?
Yeah.
I like
kind of.
the second powers that you have in the game. That's pretty good.
So what would you grade this game though, Mecha? Because I can tell by Jeremy's face he has not played it and I have not played it.
I'm
Or
gonna
have you played it?
I have not played it.
I'm gonna say average because it seems like a basic shooter game.
All right, we're going into the Hitman series now.
Hitman 1 is average.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like we didn't have like too many expectations for Hitman itself to begin with.
Right.
But 2, however,
You think, yeah? I haven't played Hitman 2.
I've played 2. It did a lot better. I would definitely give it the grade.
Okay.
And I hate the fact that Hitman has been spread all over this thing. The many different Hitmen do a lot. But
Let's just stick to the core, or at least whatever, a definitive or whatever version. I don't know. Sometimes they're not that much better.
I haven't played all the Hitmen, so I can tell which ones are going to go here. But
all right.
This one, the remake did a lot better than the original.
Okay.
Next up, we have Inversion. Not played it.
Sorry, I went to the restroom. I haven't played the Hitman games to be honest, but I heard they're pretty like puzzle games. So
yeah.
It's kind of like we were saying earlier about the Tomb Raider game, where like if you like puzzles in your games, they're pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, so the next one is Mafia 2.
2. Haven't played. Only seen. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You know, the thing with a lot of these third-person shooters here is that it's based around what kind of story you're looking for. You know? I mean, very similar gameplay elements, obviously, you know, because they are labeled as such as a shooter. You know, so I think it just, I guess it matters, like, how well you can process controlling your character if the gameplay is good and if it has a very compelling story. Are you willing to go through it? You know, like,
I think we could say we could probably skip most of these since most of us have not played most of these.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely speak on. We already put Grand Theft Auto 3 up there?
No, we haven't. I think the easiest way is pick your masterpiece and throw it up there.
Mm-hmm. I'm just seeing what else is down here, just to kind of like get a scope of what I have played. Oh, you know, Red Dead Redemption. Do we call this a shooter? We do we?
You do call it a shooter because you use a gun and then you're in a cowboy setting. So
how do you solve your problem? How do you solve your problems?
How do you solve your problem in the Old West? Usually,
do it through a gun,
as I've been told. Oh, but man, DB Geek's gonna hate me for this. I definitely would put Resident Evil 4 as my masterpiece. However, I'm gonna put Red Dead Redemption 1 as my masterpiece.
All right, wherever it...
Two does do a lot of things better just because they learned from the first game, but I think that the initial impact of how Red Dead Redemption just kind of took everybody by surprise of being that compelling of a story while still having that as a shooter element, I would say yes, let's put it up there at the as.
But doesn't like Red Dead Redemption 2 have like very technical things you do? Like you have to take care of more things than just yourself in Red Dead Redemption 2.
What's wrong with that?
I'm not sure. I haven't played 2.
I mean, nothing's wrong with it. I'm just saying that's something that people don't like because people just want to do running and gunning. They don't have to take care of their horses or take care of like keep an eye on the temperature or whatnot. Like there's a point where like too much mechanics get annoy people.
You do know that's also in the first game as well, right?
I mean,
You kind of have to take care of what's riding you into the sunset.
I heard they go overboard on the second game. and
Not
stuff.
really.
Can
Anyway,
we put Resident Evil 5 and 6 in the bad pile? Please?
Yes, absolutely. I
Thank
agree
you.
with you. Just it goes where it needs to go. Like, listen,
They still meet the Resident Evil 5 and 6.
no, 5
Yeah.
and 6 were, listen. It did not feel like survival. I'm sorry. It did not feel like survival. Because I'm going to admit it. 1 through 3, survival. 0, survival. 5 and 6. I'm Michael. Hi guys, I'm Michael Bay. This is what an explosion looks like.
It's like what you said earlier, Jeremy. It's like what was the name of the person that ruined Resident Evil 4? After
DB
Resident
Geek.
Evil 4,
Dude,
yeah, it basically that's when Capcom was like, oh, they like action stuff. Let's put more action stuff. Like that's why everyone loved Resident Evil
but it's
6 because it went back to horror.
but it's too much sometimes when you put too much action in something that's supposed to be horror. I played Resident Evil 5, front and back, and honestly, it was boring. It was boring because I didn't feel like at one moment that I felt my life wasn't threatened. I felt like, oh, I have all these mass weapons of destruction. I guess I'm gonna win. It didn't feel like horror to me.
Does you like punching the boulder? Does you like that part?
No. No. That was probably my least favorite part.
Let's put RE4 in great.
Is there already 4 there?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. It's bottom right. You just glanced over it. There it is.
That looks like Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, let's are the other Resident Evil games up there?
We
I
have,
can't quite see.
we have Resident Evil 3, which I actually enjoyed. This was survival. I'm
Yeah.
running from
3 was
Nemesis.
great.
Now,
Yeah.
keep in mind these are the remakes, though. It's like, do you consider the remake just as good as the original?
The remakes
Because
did some great QOLs of them. That's why. The QOL definitely made a difference in the games.
For those of you playing the home game, QOL stands for quality of life.
Yeah, I'm like, what the heck do you mean?
For those of you with scoreboards.
I gotta put Dead Rising up there, but this is Dead Rising like 3 or 4. This is where it went bad. 2 was its highest standing point, and then 3 and 4 just kind of like shit the bed. And not in a good way. Actually, that's never a good way.
The Dead Rising 1 and 2 were good because you had to kill.
Yeah,
Like,
Dead
you had to
Rising
kill
1
the zombies anyway.
Yeah, Dead Rising 1 and 2 was great. 3 and 4 started declining.
I think because 3 and 4 you don't even use Frank West anymore. You had to use some other character there,
No,
right?
in the second one you don't even use Frank West. Use Chuck Green.
Who is Chuck Green?
Famous tap dancer. Sorry.
Grand Theft Auto wise, 3 was great. I will 100%
Okay.
that.
So
Okay, right. So we're only choosing the one masterpiece, right?
Yeah, what's your well you chose
Oh,
your
man.
masterpiece, which was
I
Red
chose
Dead.
Red Dead Redemption 1. But I want to put Vice City as a halvesy between masterpiece and great. I think I would put Vice City over San Andreas.
I don't see Vice City.
now, what
sadly.
makes you pick Vice City more?
What makes me pick it more?
Yeah,
Aesthetic.
5 was great
Because-
too. I'll put it on great. 5 was great.
The problem with 5 is that like it's basically the only game Rockstar made because now they just won't.
Yeah, but 5 here's the thing. 5 added more inclusion to the game. It was more inclusive. And 6 is going to be even more inclusive, which by the way, I'm going to talk some shit. Hold on. First of all, for those of you who were mad that the protagonist for Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be a Spanish Latina girl, shame on you. Shame on you. Listen, we have never had really a female protagonist in these Grand Theft Auto games, and you've been beating the shit out of hookers. on the corner doing their job. And you are now mad that we have a Latina lead for the protagonist in Grand Theft Auto 6. The fuck is wrong with you guys?
Well,
Revenge
technically, we
is
had a
sweet.
female in like one or two in the first Grand Theft Auto game.
Like, hold on, let me finish. I haven't even done yet. Hold on. We have Bayonetta as a lead.
Yep.
You didn't hate that. We have Lara Croft as a lead. You didn't hate that.
Nope.
Why are you giving us so much hatred for a Latina lead? Hell, Kaede was technically the first lead until she was overshadowed by Shuichi and Danganronpa. You had freaking Makoto in Danganronpa freaking Ultra Despair Girls, which is in the title. You didn't hate that. I don't want to hear that GTA is a man's game. I'm sorry. There's a lot of female gamers out there that will highly, highly shut that down quickly, saying, no, I play GTA, and guess what? I'll gut you in the throat and dance on your entrails.
Revenge is sweet.
Okay.
So,
Wait, really? People got upset over that?
yeah, people were like, oh, this is
That
stupid.
doesn't make-
What? Because GTA is a man's game, because people are ignorant. And it's like, wow. They feel that if they play as the female character, that all of a sudden all their masculinity just shits the toilet.
I think people
So
are more
dumb.
mad that they're trying to be a little bit less, more less risky or something like that, or more careful what they say.
No,
But I think it's
no, it's
People
not,
don't. People react. That's what the internet is based on. Reaction. No cognitive thought before
Hey,
typing something.
Speaking of which, especially what Epic Man just said. Like, especially, I 100% what Epic Man just said, especially when you can make a female avatar
In GTA Online.
in
That's what I
GTA
heard.
Online.
That's
What
what I
the
heard.
hell? Like, you guys know that this happens, right? Jesus. Anyway, Mecha, what's your masterpiece? So that way I could just move us to the arcade shooters.
my masterpiece. My masterpiece is, I'm going to say, let's go with Gears of War, because I remember playing that game with all my friends back in high school when we were part of the 360 crew, and it's a fun game because you have a chainsaw in it, and that's kind of cool and whatnot. And I
Chainsaw
played it for a
rifle.
bit. Yes, that's amazing. I mean, to be fair, this game kind of, I don't think this was Epic's first game, but this game kind of put them on the mark until now they just make Fortnite. Because remember, technically, Epic Games made this game back way before Fortnite was ever a thing in their minds.
Yep.
So because of that, like, it's fun. This is very action packed. It has a very infamous. Was this a game with the commercial with the Sound of Silence song or something?
No, I think this was. Oh no, that was Halo. That was Halo.
One of them. And I mean, like I said, it's a fun game. I gotta play some more Gears of War games. I gotta play a few of them, but like I think most of them are Game Pass, so I can try to play some of those too. Oh yeah, basically that's my
I have to,
masterpiece.
I have to
if that's
agree
okay.
with. I know. I have to agree with you. I enjoyed Gears of War. I played 1 through 3. I can't get into the games after 3, and the only reason why I can't really get into them is because of the fact that 1, they stripped down a lot of characters from what they originally grew into from 1 through 3, and 2, as much as I love Bayard as a character, his own game did not really do great, and I was so mad about it because Bayard is one of my favorite characters in Gears. Because he's he's a sarcastic asshole, and I love it.
I think after Epic stopped making them and became their own company, got a huge reboot. Like I think, what up to 5? 5 is kind of like a reboot of the whole series or something.
Which no, don't reboot a series. Also, they in the 3rd game they finally killed the trope that a Carmine must die, which was great. I'm like, thank you. One Carmine gets to live. Yes, awesome.
Is that a name or a person?
That's the last name of a family of brothers that joined this army. First one to die was Anthony Carmine in Gears of War 1, and then Gears 2, he was just a new recruit, and he got eaten alive. And now the 3rd game, Clay Carmine actually freaking lives with his brother's tattooed on his arm. And I'm like, yes! The Chad of the family!
Good for him. Hopefully he doesn't die in future games and whatnot.
Don't Don't push it. I don't know what happens in 4
Okay.
or 5. I just like to think that he lived, and that's it. I just want to think that he lived, that he was good enough. Also,
He doesn't
funny
wanna
enough,
punish-
the female Gears characters in 3 finally get to actually go to the front arms, and you get to see Anya and I forgot the other one's name. I forgot her name, but you get to see Anya finally on the field instead of just being behind the microphone and doing their thing. So yeah, now I'm gonna switch to our little doohickey to arcade shooters. Give me one moment.
Not gonna finish that one.
No,
Okay,
because
we
like I
can do
said,
it
like
later.
a majority of us didn't play some of these, and honestly, I haven't because most shooters actually turn me off immediately because I'm not good at shooting people. By the way,
We're sorry, Hito. We failed you.
like
I failed you specifically.
I'm not good at shooters that well, but if it has a good story, goddamn, I will play the hell out of it. That's why I said like story can actually push somebody to play something that is out of their element.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
And that's a big important thing.
I mean, it's not really a shooter at all, but like, kind of example you're saying, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, the gameplay in that game is very repetitive, but has a great story. And because of that, I
You guys
deal with
ready?
like 40%.
I'm ready. Let's rock and roll.
Boom.
Rock and roll super show.
Boom, arcade
Oh,
shooters.
good gravy.
That's a lot of them.
That's a.
All right.
That's a.
This is okay. Now we can get to talking. I know some of these at least.
Now these are
These
not
are-
now these are not the old school arcade shooters. These are the ones that give you the giant gun to use in the arcade.
Shoot.
AKA
Okay,
the
okay.
light shooters.
Alright, can I start off or something?
What's your masterpiece?
No, you want us to pick a masterpiece now?
I mean, if you want to.
Well, let me see. You can go first, Jeremy, if you know yours right now.
What is our tier list here? What are our columns? I mean, our go up to the
S
Oh,
A B.
letters.
We got
Ugh.
letters. We got
Gross.
letters.
Gross.
I like
Good,
that.
average, bad.
Let's
A, B, C. Good, average, bad.
got it.
D is not played.
Yeah.
My masterpiece. Do you mind? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, let's see the whole list. Is that every game in there? Let me see.
It's the majority of them.
All right, let's see. Oh, we discussed that Hogan's Alley is not.
Okay. This there.
All right, so let's see. Gosh.
I already see
Oh,
mine.
man. What's yours? Really? Oh man.
I love
Jurassic
listen,
Park.
I love Jurassic Park. Mind you, I literally okay, so I have this funny memory with this game. I was playing it at a Chuck E. Cheese at one time. Yes, Chuck E. Cheese, 8-year-old Hito story. Here we go. It was my birthday. My aunts took me out and they're like, we're gonna take you to Chuck E. Cheese and buy a whole bunch of Pokemon stuff. And I was like, fuck yes, let's do this. Not as or whatever equivalent an 8-year-old can say. Legitimately, I enjoyed the hell out of this game. When I was playing it, all I remember was that my aunt kept literally putting in a whole bunch of new ringtones, and she loves Jurassic Park. So one second I beat one of the stages, all I hear is I'm like, is that the music for the game? She's like, oh no, I'm just getting a text. Your mom says to get you home as quickly as possible because now things are happening. I'm just like, I was slightly disappointed that was not the end of level theme because it was theatrical and we love that theme.
Good old John Williams.
Like why couldn't that be the theme song? I was sad. I was absolutely sad. My
Oh man. Okay. Out of those listed. Oh man. Okay.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna screw it. I'm gonna call this one my masterpiece. I like. Ever play Point Blank?
I have not played Point Blank.
Where is?
I think I played that a few times. I think specifically the first one. I played that a few times in some arcades. It's kind of fun because instead of just shooting people and aliens and whatnot, it's kind of a mini game collection. So you could just
I've never seen
it
that.
gives you different options to play and stuff like that. So it'd be a fun. It's a kind of a fun game to play like in the arcades and whatnot. So it's kind of like the WarioWare of arcade shooters. Like you don't know what you're gonna come up with next. And
Oh no, I love
because
that. I love that analogy, and I like the idea of that. I might actually play it sometime.
I think they have a Genesis version. I mean, Genesis version. Dreamcast version. But trust me, if you see this game in the arcade, bring a bunch of people with you and play it. It's I've seen it a few times in some arcades, and I was like, damn, this game is super fun and whatnot. So I'm
Cool.
I think that's my masterpiece. to be
You know
honest.
what? That works. That works. I will take it. That is a great. And okay, perfect. I love the confidence in that one. Jeremy, you're up.
You're
Oh my
welcome.
gosh. All right. Well, we were talking before about what is the difference between our third person shooter and what is a rail shooter. You know what I mean? So, if I got to call it, man, shoot. It is definitely a mix between I'm just going to say it. Time Crisis 2.
Time Crisis 2 it is.
Time Crisis 2. Is it listed?
I see Time Crisis. That might be 2 right here.
That's it. Yes,
That's
Time
it.
Crisis 2. So, let me set the scene for you all. So, I walk into the arcade. Yes? Yes. Thanks, everyone. So, I see this huge cabinet. And it's just, it's the largest screen I have seen. And all of a sudden, there are stakes involved. Like, literal storytelling stakes. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean I have to press pedal to shoot the characters? You know what I mean? Like, or shoot the enemies. What is this? And I literally got into character. Like, I really legit got into character. This game was probably one of the first arcade experiences I had of absolute, like, immersion. And we were discussing this before. Is it a rail shooter? Yes. Do we define it as a third-person shooter? I don't think we do. But if these are the choices we're given, I would have to say that Time Crisis 2 takes this masterpiece spot for me. And you could say 3 or 4, yeah, sure. But this was the one where they learned from the first one and said, okay, how can we get people to want to finish this game or want to pump more money? Give it something compelling. And you have a reason to, like, get into character. You get into it. It's like, it's great. Goosebumps all over. Time Crisis 2.
All right, so there we go.
All right.
We got our masterpieces in set. Now we have to
All right.
go through the list.
Throw. Where is it? I just saw it.
Where?
Throw Buck Hunter into the lowest category.
Have you
I'm-
played that game?
Oh, I played. Throw them all into the terrible category. All of them.
Yeah,
That sounds like
all
those
of
Wii
them.
games where like you get a free gun with
Listen,
it.
the Big Buck series is
Just
not great.
Just
Don't you want to hunt deers and
No,
survive wilderness or something?
no.
Does that count as a survival
not.
game?
It's not even It's not even coming from a moral standpoint. It's just like. No. I'm sorry.
You sound
Just
so against
no.
it.
I'm just so. I don't know about anyone else in chat. I'm looking at chat right now. Hold on.
I mean, man, I know
No
you
one
play a
has-
game. I know
no
you're
one-
watching.
no one has
said anything.
commented.
No-
All right.
I think
I'm on a roll.
I think we're on a
Throw
roll.
them
We're good.
all
They're all in there. It's fine.
into bad. All right,
And
good. Whew.
did I miss one though?
If you did, shame. No, I'm kidding. Okay, good. We got that out of the way.
Is
All
this
right,
game there?
wonderful.
Ghost
Oh wait, hold
Squad?
on a second. Add a row below for never played because we gotta.
Oh yeah. Let's throw it in there because there are a lot of these on this list that I have played.
Oh wait, not new. God damn! If they were all new games, Jesus, never played. There we go. See, because
I mean, after the healthy debate we just had, a lot of these games really do stray from what we were discussing.
Yeah.
So, so I guess we are at an impasse.
Hogan's Alley's. Oh no, because now we're doing arcade shooters. Because we did say it was
Right.
gonna be a third person versus arcade shooters type thing.
Right,
So
but it's
now I
not.
have-
It's a light gun shooter.
Yep.
Right.
Can we put that game? Can you say the tier list again up there? You can put that game in C. Honestly, it's not a fun game.
What's not a fun game?
Hogan's Alley.
Hogan's Alley I enjoyed. It was okay.
I mean, it's average. It's
Well,
like,
right. So here's where we have to draw the line. We have to draw the line at are you going to discount it just because
Thank
of
you for the bitters.
Oh,
Thank you for
we've
the
got a
bitters.
did you get
Thank
a
you
raid
for the
just now?
bitters. Thank you for the bitters.
Oh, you got
Thank you
cheers.
for
Oh,
the
okay, cool.
bitters.
Okay, if we're going to discount Hogan's Alley to where did you say B?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I agree with that. But if we're going to discount the earlier games just based off of limitation, we have to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
Because
Yes,
a lot of I mean, we're all relatively around the same age, so
Yeah.
you know, there's nothing to be said. But I don't like to
Drop a game
gatekeep
down because of the fact
right,
that
right,
it's
and I don't like to
pre-tech.
gatekeep new games either, just because quote unquote I haven't played them. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that, but a lot of people discount older games that haven't reached where they're comfortable just because of graphical limitation. We have to look at it from how well did it control? Was it successful in its own right? Did people actually pump money in to play this because it was fun? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
but for Hogan's Alley's sake, I would put that under Wild Gunman, under Duck Hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I would totally do that.
All right, so our next one is we could do Point Blank 2 next.
Have you played Point Blank 2?
I have not, but maybe Mecca has.
I don't know. Is Mecca? Oh yeah, there
I'm
you
here. I'm here. Don't worry. Sorry.
go.
I-
ran.
I've never left you guys. I can never leave you guys. No. Yeah, I played it. It's just as good as the original, but the original still stands for being you know, have it building the set and whatnot. So I'm gonna put this on A, to be honest. It could be, it's not, I guess that's the first one, but like I played a bit. It adds some more. It just adds some more like mini games to whatnot to the main stories, if that makes sense.
Oh, so like I understand, like it didn't have the same impact as the first one because it just continued on a really great formula as it is.
Essentially, yes, that's a good way to put it. Like I said, it's I mean, well, how much can you go on from like just like a bunch of mini games with like guns and stuff like that? So, because of that, like it's good, but like, you know, it's not the same lasting as the original one, not. But let me see the list. I just found one out. Do you have Ghost Squad there too? Is that one of those in there?
I saw something with Ghost.
I just want to say something about that one. Is that
Oh,
there?
right here, Ghost Squad.
Yeah, that one I do remember playing because a friend of mine's had it for the Wii, and it was actually kind of a fun game, especially if you had the Wii Zapper. I'm gonna give that one a B if I remember. It's like I think that game was like you're like a police squad, you have to kill aliens and whatnot. But that game was pretty fun. If you especially with the Zapper, you can it's very it replicated the arcade style of that game very well when you're at home and whatnot. Because keep in mind, these games probably play different when you play in arcades versus at home, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the feeling that you get from playing a game at your house is probably not the same as if the feeling you get when you play the arcade near like the settings and whatnot. Especially if you have a different accessory and whatnot with it. So be sure to keep that in mind when with that. Oh, is that Overkill too?
Hold on. I see Crisis Zone. This was another game that I actually played a lot of. Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, Crisis Zone. I would put Crisis Zone in good or great.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that.
Oh
there.
yeah.
Like this was one of those games that you notice the title of it immediately and you're like, load me up, Johnny. I'm ready to strap in and get on to an adventure.
Super my kit.
Take out your
Take my quarters, throws a whole giant sack and laundry bag of quarters on somebody. Let's go.
I just realized that they have Overkill in there. Is that House of the Dead Overkill?
It should. Yeah, the House of the Dead Overkill was here. Yes.
It's a funny story about this game. This is actually one of the first games I ever bought on Steam when I went over to my Steam account. Because when I bought it, I think it just said it was Typing of the Dead Steam version. And because then it wasn't until like a few years ago I realized, oh, it's there's a gun part to this game and whatnot. I don't even know. Give me a second. Sorry. No, but I do want to talk about this game. That's okay.
Yeah, I do too.
Typing. House of the Dead Overkill. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
It's. I think the game is. You have like this cop that's like very generic cop, but then you have your sidekick who's
just the most foul-mouthed.
Yes.
I am. My name is Cop Pigford. Hi, how can I help you today? Most generic cop name.
And yeah, like it's like I don't know how I can say this, but he's like the most stereotypical racist black person you could think of. It's probably
over the top.
Yeah.
Just fantastic.
I don't know how else to explain him. Like it's like you take the characters from Rush Hour and then put them in a zombie horror flick. It's hilarious. I mostly played like the typing version of the game, to be honest, but I did play a bit of it on.
So what you're saying is Chris Tucker's in the game.
Essentially, he's in the game, yeah.
But he's like so foul-mouthed. It's brilliant. You know, I would put House of the Dead Overkill in great. I play it on the Wii. I played it last year, and it was on one of my like lists of if there was like an on-rail shooter that I could play, like where I just need to rip into zombies, like. That's it. Like that. It's that version of House of the Dead that does it for me with the 70s horror B-movie flick aesthetic with the grainy film and the dumb story and just hordes of zombies. Very John Romero. Very Grindhouse. Very Grindhouse. Totally, yes. I would put it as my masterpiece, but Time Crisis 2 hits differently for me. But House of the Dead Overkill would be like my close second. Speaking of House of the Dead, here is my listing of the House of the Dead games. House of the Dead 1, average. House of the Dead 3, bad. House of the Dead 3, bad. House of the Dead 2. Just because of the overexerted poorness of its voiceover quality, it becomes so bad that it's great. Put it in A. A. Oh, yes. Beautiful. Look at that. It looks so nice.
This is so bad it's good. So it's like the room of games or something?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Exactly that.
Okay, so I have 3 that can go that I'm looking at right now. 3 that can go in average and 1 that can go in great. Okay. Area 51. We could put that in average.
I can't see.
I've played it. It's to the right. Red with silver 51 as the letters. Yep. We'll put that in average.
Oh,
average. Yeah, we'll put that in average. Great, cool, like very photorealistic, but doesn't quite keep your attention. Maximum Force does the exact same thing as Area 51. It kind of holds you, but it's just like, all right, let's just machine gun. Oh, I got to pump another quarter. Great, thanks. You're putting Area 51 down?
Yeah.
Is bad?
Oh,
really?
No, these are bad.
Wow.
These are horrible.
Okay.
These are like, okay. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, we are hitting it. Okay. Maximum Force, yeah, B. Okay. What was the third one? I saw it. Oh, go up again? I thought I saw it. I'm sorry. No, go down. I'm sorry. Where are you? Virtua Cop, the first one. Put it in average, so that would be a B. Yeah, Virtua Cop was fun, but again, it's like, all right, we know the gist. Now, great, put it in A. You know what's coming. Star Wars Trilogy Arcade.
That one was actually really good, and I'm not even a Star Wars fan.
So it's like, if you really want to feel like you're flying down the Death Star trench run and you're surrounded by friends and they're cheering you on, that's what you play. Like, you play this arcade.
So it's similar to like Star Fox then, basically, like we were saying earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh,
Okay.
so I got
Go
one.
for it.
So I
Go
have
for
one
it.
that I want to go into. So I've actually played more of the Virtual Cop series. The Elite Edition did so much better than its average caliber, so I will put it in A.
Cool. Great. I haven't played the Elite Edition. So
But
that's awesome.
3, like it could have been so much better. They dropped
So do
it
you
down
want to put it in
just
C?
I mean, it kind of still amounts to this. It's kind of like they went
Okay.
back. They just took one step backwards.
Step backward. Okay.
Like, you know, like they took 2 steps forward, then took 2 steps back.
Sure.
You know, opposites attracts, that type of thing. That's what happened.
Right.
The original Time Crisis.
That's definitely average. It hit on a lot of good points, but it could have been so much better.
I mean, Tankers is a very good arcade shooter, right? It's very classic and everything.
Yeah, it is a classic one. Then
Yes, definitely.
Then we got Time Crisis 2.
So Time Crisis 3, I would put. You know what? Actually, here, let's switch some things up. Time Crisis 3, I would put in I would put it in B, and let's put Time Crisis 1 in A. Yeah, that sounds right. Because Time Crisis 3, I think you got the machine gun, which kind of was a little bit overkill to pressing the pedal to reload and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that if you really want, sorry, I just saw another one that we have to put in an A. But yeah, having the machine gun and pressing on the pedal, it didn't really make sense. Like the whole point to pressing the pedal is to make sure you time where your shots are going. You know what I mean? Instead of just barraging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of defeated the purpose of having the pedal. Lethal Enforcers. Do you see it in red with the revolver?
Before you do that,
Oh, yes.
House of the Dead 4.
4, put it in B.
And
Is that the new one?
And now Lethal Enforcers.
Put that sucker in A. Oh boy, yeah.
You seem like
Put
a
it in-
fan of it.
A. Oh yeah. Well, when Lethal Enforcers came out, and it was like, oh, I'm a kid and my parents aren't around. Ooh, let's try this. Oh, you can actually like feel like you're gunning down these like, you know, esteemed gentlemen of crime when you yourself know they're doing bad. So it's like, you know, ooh, I feel some kind of like justice. You know what I mean? Like, but you're a kid, you know? Aha, there it is. It's just kind of ingrained within you to say, oh, all right, I understand what I need to do here. And it's a light gun. It's just like home. Fun. Let's do it. Lethal Enforcers, eh?
You're a kid now, you're a squid now, you're an enforcer now.
A squibby!
Man.
What are those other ones that are like they just show the arcade cabinet at the top left there? What are those?
Guns of Fury.
Okay.
Voyager.
Never.
Something that's loaded with excitement that's not telling me what it is.
Okay.
And
What is that one?
Something about polar transfer. Police.
No. Haven't played those. No.
Police trainer.
Nope. Haven't played. Police trainer? No. Sounds like a stop and go thing.
This one says Terror Burst on it.
I haven't played
There's no
Terror.
logo for those games. Why is there no logo for them?
So should,
Probably the advertisement. They probably didn't have a logo. That's usually advertisement.
so let's put these in where they belong. Never
yeah,
played.
I haven't played any of the ones you just mentioned. Probably why they're on ads.
It's like, these are
There's
ads,
no logo.
guys. There's no logo. They didn't deserve a logo. It's fine. It's okay.
So what is
What is
your
that
opinion
like-
on the Jurassic Lost World game?
So
you know,
the Lost World Jurassic Park was actually really good. The way that they had it presented, you had to literally go inside the cabinet, sit down, and get comfy. This was immersion inclusive.
Cool. That's the great. I like that.
I would give this an S as well because it's Jurassic World. Like you gotta.
Wait, you're allowed one. Pick it.
That is true, but we could also agree to put this one in if you guys want to.
Nope. Pick it.
Yeah,
You gotta pick it. Put it A. It's an A.
Okay, it's good.
If the first one pulls at your heartstring, if the masterpiece pulls at your heartstrings, that's where it belongs. If the Lost World is just as good, but it doesn't quite tug, it goes in A.
It only doesn't tug because it's recent. That's why.
Recent.
Jurassic Park 2 though. That can the Jurassic Park series just does the light shooter genre justice. It does like a lot. Like,
I love how all the big bucks are just kind of crumbled in the do not playlist.
just don't do this.
Time
D's for
Crisis
don't.
4. We missed Time Crisis 4. Put Time Crisis 4 in B. It was great, but it just wasn't like it didn't have the panache.
It didn't.
You know,
It didn't tickle the. I mean, it didn't scratch the itch.
there was no panache. Yeah, it was like there's a certain level of je ne sais quoi to it. It just didn't have it. What's Site 4? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Site 4. It's in purple lettering.
What are you saying?
Site 4. Down to the right. Site 4. Nope. Up.
Oh yeah, this.
Over. Yeah, that.
I don't know what this is.
Average.
You played it?
Yeah, I've played it. It's not very memorable, but it's not like very good. It's okay. I'm surprised Revolution X isn't on this.
Oh, so these are for Mecha. We have Point Blank X and Point Blank 3.
All right, sorry. So we use Point Blank 3 on B, because like I just didn't have the same sense as I did with the other two. And what was the other one again?
Point Blank X.
I haven't played that one, to be honest.
All right.
But I'm sure they must have a collection that you can find somewhere on the internet. So we could just go to like a arcade and go and find them and stuff.
Yes, because they have everything there.
Kind of off topic, but have you noticed how like does it remind you guys how like all the good arcade or like classic arcade games are like in barcades, while like Dave & Buster's, for example, just gets the generic mobile arcade cabinets, if that makes sense?
Something like that. All right, so I'm going to assume that none of us have played
How to make a
any of
profit
these.
101.
I'm going to assume that none of us have played any of these.
I did
What
research
was
on
that?
it.
Wild Gunman?
Yeah, Wild Gun.
Wild Gun, but not Wild Gunman.
Is that the
Yeah.
NES game?
No.
No, okay, that's different.
that?
All right, yeah, because I was gonna say that one we could. Wild Gunman is great. I would put it in great. I would give it an A, just because of its like, reaction factor. But
I know.
oh, you've played this?
I've played this one. This is actually
Ninja Assault.
It's good, but it's not
Okay.
great. It's not.
Sounds like something I would try.
And then these would just end up in do not in never played, I guess.
Oh wait, Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
That one's actually really good.
Yeah, put that in A.
That goes to A.
That is definitely an A. That is kind of like how Revolution X is.
I'm going
Like where
to,
you have the giant machine gun and you're literally trying to like get everything down.
What's
Yeah.
that one with the
Which is
cloud?
different from Maximum Force, different from Area 51 in the sense that it's just like those are just like your generic, oh, okay. But the fact that Terminator 2 Judgment Day was just such a solid film just lends itself over to you having that sense of immersion into playing that game the way it's needing to be played.
and that means the rest of these go into never played. Silent Scope.
Wait, so what's that one with the clown? I'm just curious.
I
Oh yeah.
don't even know.
Oh wait a second. I know that game. Wait, hold on a second.
You do?
Yes. Oh, I've played this game. This is a Carnival. Yes, put that in A. Put that sucker in A. Carnival was so much fun
Well, what
because
is Carnival?
Carnival, you're literally going through a haunted circus, gunning down all of these mutated like circus freaks and like clowns and like freak show kind of looking things that turn into these mutilated mutants. It's great because you never really got like a game like that up to that point in that kind of a setting. You know what I mean? Like there are games where it's like, oh, we go to the it's kind of like Overkill where, oh, you go to the hospital. Oh, you go to the circus. Oh, you go to the insane asylum. Oh, you're going to this underground laboratory. Fine. The whole game takes place at a carnival. And you're literally going on the rides and you're going through the freak show area and you're going into the big top. You know what I mean? You're just traversing this like
overpopulated with zombie mutant like carnies like attacking you. So much fun. Definitely recommend if you can find it.
What's it called again? Sorry.
Carnival.
I mean, like, so it's like Resident Evil mixed with like Carnivore or something.
No, I wouldn't. I would say it's like more like House of the Dead meets the Carnival.
Yeah. All right, and
let me just take a look and see if there's any others that
I mean, I did a little bit of research on this. So her Cinescope is kind of a fun one to do in arcades. You basically play the whole game as a sniper.
but how?
So
but did
basically,
you
it's
play
like a gun. I haven't yet, but
that's
see an
the
arcade?
important thing. Like, did you play it?
I haven't. but
I haven't
it's
played
possible it
any
sounds
of
cool.
these other shooters.
So I can put all of these down because I have not played these either.
let's-
These are arcade shooters that we must try out sometime.
Well, let's see if
That we must find.
That too. But we could just put them all down just so they could go to Betty by. Look at that.
Yeah.
There's another silent scope here called Bone Eater, which I'm surprised about. And there we go.
That's it.
That is our list
Nice.
of shooters. Now
Sweet.
we go into the surprise.
Ooh, what's the surprise?
surprise section.
Surprise!
Oh wait, why is it doing that?
Wait, the browser is parting. It's Moses.
Wait.
I just really need to go to more arcades out there and stuff.
All right, guys, this is gonna get ridiculous. This is the most ridiculous one I've gotten.
Lay it on us.
Another tier list.
It is another
Bear.
tier list.
Okay, redemption.
This one is the arcade cabinet tier list.
What the? We can't even read the games on them.
I can tell you which ones are which by the design, technically speaking.
These are all the arcade one-ups.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like,
Oh,
God,
for
that's so funny.
crying out, Glaven. Hito.
I want
right.
one of those things, but I can't fit one in this stupid apartment. I had to get one time to move out.
Okay. Here we go. Are you
Alright,
ready?
I think I can do better with this one then. Okay.
All right. So, Masterpiece. Let's see. Where are
We're
you?
Masterpiece first?
Also,
I
more than
would-
one thing can be put in Masterpiece if we all voted on it.
Okay.
That'd be it.
So then I will make my case for two of them.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay. But you got one that
This-
can automatically go up to Masterpiece.
Okay. The Simpsons arcade. Right there. You can see it in that blue teal kind of right there smack in the middle.
Oh, hell yeah, I
This
agree with you on
arcade is
that.
very basic. You just have attack and jump, though.
It doesn't,
No combos.
it doesn't
game.
matter.
And the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cabinet.
But okay. I'll take. Okay, I'll
Wait.
okay.
Hold on, I agree with you on the Teenage... Wait, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle will always, like, be great to put up there. If I can find where it is on this list...
But the Super Nintendo version I heard is better because it has more stages, even though there's only like 2 players in that game.
It doesn't matter if that's the case. We're talking about arcade
It's not.
cabinets.
It's you are correct, but it's not on
You're
this
right,
list.
I'm sorry.
But you are correct.
But you
The
are
best
correct.
kind of correct.
Sorry. Okay,
No, don't be.
I'll
You're
take
good.
your word for the Simpsons. 'Cause, I mean, like, it does have mini games in between stages, so
It's-
that makes it.
It's
that can
also
bring some company.
4-player, by the way.
Well, so is the TMNT game, I think, right?
No.
Correct. It is.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
it is.
What I was going to say was, it was one of the few games that allowed 4 players on a cabinet, which is actually very revolutionary at its time.
It was really.
Yes, it was.
Oh God.
For
Yeah.
me.
Then you get to X-Men, which had 6,
Yeah.
and then people were just
Oh.
like, "What? It's a birthday party!"
How do you fit 6 people in one cabinet?
By doing
Carefully.
How, do they get like one of those ultra wide screens that they sell nowadays and whatnot?
There is a cabinet there. Oh, you just went over it.
Can I say my
It's-
masterpiece? Or...
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, okay, for my first one, how about Galaga? Because that game is
Yes,
so much fun
I
to play
agree.
in the
Let's try to
arcade,
find it.
honestly. Is it there?
Go for it.
It's probably in one of the collections or something.
Yeah.
You see the yeah, it's like on either the Pac-Man 40th anniversary one or it's on another cabinet. I'm trying to look for it myself.
These
Oh,
really
look,
are
hold
just...
on. Can we just put Big Buck where it belongs?
Again, this is the arcade version. Is it good in the arcade?
We were talking.
No,
we
it's
were talking.
not there to exist.
We were talking about that just a second ago. Just no,
Does you want to hunt deers?
no. Absolutely.
It's not about the animal. It's just about how terrible it is.
I know, I'm just kind of messing with you. Oh,
Yeah,
you
where
said we can
is
have
it?
2 masterpieces, right?
I'm gonna,
If we agree on it, yeah.
yeah, I think this is it right here because this
I
has
think that's
everything.
it. Yeah, that's it. Throw it up there.
And mine, I have to stick with a really, really good one. But
Now, since we're talking about arcades, I have a curious question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember? I think they stopped making these nowadays, but these little. You can buy these mini arcade cabinets that are as big as as a remote. That was as a keychain. Does that ring any bells?
Arcade cabinets that are as big as a keychain?
No, they're supposed to be mini arcade cabinets that it's kind of is hard to play them because the screen is so tiny. But
You mean one of these?
yes.
Yeah, I've got like 4 of these.
I think it's a little smaller.
I have-
But let's do that.
I have. Wait, hold on.
oh no, he's pulling them out.
I have Centipede.
Oh,
Okay.
The other one I just pulled out was the Pac-Man 40th anniversary one.
oh no.
I have. Where are you? I have Defender,
Oh no.
and I have Galaga.
Oh
Yeah, those are good. Yeah.
Yep, here they are.
You could make an entire arcade room for a mouse with those things.
no. All right.
Yes,
No, live,
and I am only 5'4". So.
Guys, you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it. Go
Street-
for it.
The limited edition Street Fighter edition.
Yes. You know what's so funny about that is that it's not even this cabinet, but just about 2 weeks ago, my family and I took a trip to a house Airbnb up in the Poconos with my in-laws, and in the basement they had 3 of those arcade 1-up cabinets. The first one was that Mrs. Pac-Man one that is second row, second to last. Yes, put that in A.
Yeah, it goes in. A. Definitely.
Excellent cabinet. The other 2 they had was a very special edition of the Street Fighter cabinet, but it had more games than the 3 that are listed there. It had 12 games. This thing was a beast. It had everything from 6 or 7 versions of Street Fighter, Strider. It had the Darkstalker games. It was just like it had 1944. It just had a bunch of Capcom games on it.
Guys, Defender.
Yes. Okay. Put that up there. Put that up. Up. Yes. Okay. If that's the Defender Special Edition cabinet, it has the first 3 Mortal Kombats, Spear Tapper, Defender, Joust, Paperboy. That was the 3rd arcade cabinet that was in that same house. Oh my gosh, we are hitting the jackpot tonight.
I am going to Airbnb.
I gotta tell you where that house is. Oh, okay. Okay, if we can agree on this another S, we're going for an S. Wherever the X-Men versus Street Fighter cabinet goes, where it goes Marvel versus...
Oh, it's already here. That was my S. That was my masterpiece.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh my gosh, thank God it's there. Okay, excellent.
Those predecessors to Marvel's Capcom, right?
I think it had that on there.
But we can
right?
also agree on this S, the X-Men game that holds 6 players.
Yes, X-Chicken.
Boom.
Welcome to Die.
Another game with Colossus Gaga.
Yes, that's it.
Asteroids.
Neiman Magfest were like
Asteroids.
people screaming everywhere.
Yeah, Asteroids. What other games are on there? Can you tell?
I can't barely read them, but I can.
All right,
I can use my zoomy lens. Boom, boom, boom. There we go.
let's
These are
see.
some big-
Here we go. Huh.
I can read, guys. Asteroids, lunar landing.
Oh, throw that NBA Jam cabinet into S. No, I mean no, not S. A. Throw it into A.
Chinatown Market. And throw it in
And I'll tell you why. Here's why. Games like NBA Jam, NFL Blitz, even like Wayne Gretzky 3D hockey, they're arcade style sports games. They don't have stats, they don't need seasons, you know what I mean? They don't need that. They're just pick up and play the sport, and that's where it counts. You know what I mean? Like that's where it's fun. Even for baseball, one could argue like Ken Griffey Jr. for the Super Nintendo or Ken Griffey Jr. Slugfest or whatever, but Baseball Stars 2 by SNK Neo Geo, it's not on this list, but that is an arcade baseball game. It just keeps moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no slowdown.
Guys,
You know?
guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you for a ride.
Yeah! Get it up there. S. All the way up.
Oh my god,
Throw it up. S.
that is
USA.
that is Marvel versus Capcom 2. You know, the
New
good
Age of Heroes.
Oh my, the good. Oh.
But then again, 3 has Phoenix Wright in it, so does that make it the better one?
It does not make it the better one. I can say that. For a fact.
Look, I love the Ace Attorney games, but Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is just it is the quintessential 2D sprite fighting game. Period.
Yes.
With roster and all.
At least I gave Arcade 1 up recently, and I mean, as happy as that is, it kind of got me worried because I'm like, I really hope this isn't
Hey, look!
the only
I found
way
another
to play
big
this
butt
game.
game. We know where this goes.
Throw it in the
I'm about to get you a bunch of big buck games. It's just
Also, Golden Tee.
Golden Tee? Okay, we could throw Golden Tee in the
no, D.
See,
That game is
Really?
boring.
like D. Like I'm sorry, it's not. Listen,
All right, okay, my nostalgia.
Not
I'm sorry, I am nostalgia blind for that.
Games.
That's fine. You know, not
boring.
all golf games are terrible. I have to defend that.
Okay. Hito, I changed my mind. Put it as C, because at least with the trackball is kind of fun. But
all right, hold on, wait. The whole Marvel cabinet with Marvel versus Capcom, Marvel Super Universe, X-Men, etc. This has a mix of all
Oh,
of
you
them.
found the Ninja Turtles cabinet. It's right next to it.
There you go.
There it is. Yes, that's an S. Automatic S.
that is an S. I'll take
S.
But this Marvel one that we're talking about here.
S. S.
All
Well, okay, wait. Now, if we're calling Marvel versus Capcom the S, do we put those as A because those were leading up?
that. Yeah, good point.
We could put
So
this one in
I'm
A.
down for the A.
Okay.
So we
Because
also have
technically,
Pac-Man.
my S would be Marvel versus Capcom 2.
Correct.
All right. Next up, we
We have
have Asteroids.
Important at the time.
Yeah,
B.
yeah.
Yes.
Because it's fun. But I'll take
Pac-Man.
like,
Right. Pac-Man. Let's
Now-
put that.
well, I have a bunch of Pac-Man games.
We
in
have a
here,
whole bunch of Pac-Mans, including Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah,
we can all
well-
put
well,
them in B
that-
or A.
That cabinet is B, but there's one in particular that we have to put in A, and that's the wooden cabinet.
Oh, this
Because
is-
That one goes in B.
what do you
That
say?
one right there, that wooden cabinet, that goes in A. Automatic A.
Why is
There
that
is
A?
because of
there
all the
is
games
such-
it has in there.
there is such variety in that cabinet.
I didn't know it has more than one Pac-Man game. I mean, like,
That one is a B.
Miss
which
Pac-Man.
is it?
That Miss Pac-Man goes in B.
Isn't that the same as just regular Pac-Man, but with a fictional female character?
Fiction. Oh,
No,
look, the wooden
it's-
Miss
it's not.
Pac-Man.
And- no, that one's a B. That one's all right. The other one is the A. The one that I told you was A. That stays A. Because that other Miss Pac-Man game that you put up into the B, that one has Galaga in it
Yeah.
as the other one, but the other one has more variety.
The ultimate Mortal Kombat one with all of the Mortal Kombats in it.
S
S.
S
S.
S.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mortal
so
Kombat's
to your counterpoint, Mecha, with the Which one were you just talking about?
Miss
The
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man games.
Oh, wait. Ms. Pac-Man was one of the first ROM hacks. So Pac-Man had the same maze over and over and over. It's just that things got faster and harder. That's what she said. So the Mrs. Pac-Man game gave you different mazes, allowed you to somehow manipulate the speed of Mrs. Pac-Man if it had a speed option. So you could either go at the Pac-Man pace or you could go at the Mrs. Pac-Man pace, which was super fast, lots of cool changes to the maps. Like it just added a lot more. That's why a lot of people prefer Mrs. Pac-Man over Pac-Man any day, and I am one of those people.
All right, let's get.
What is that?
Let's get through. This is Galaga. This is a special Galaga.
All right, what's the sort of this one?
This Galaga is B worthy. I'm going to tell you that now. It's just
Why?
Just Galaga.
That's not bad. More Galaga.
Okay, here. You know what then? Wait. Okay. Go up. See that Miss Pac-Man Galaga combo right there from B? Yes, that one. Put that in A because it's got both.
All right, next up we have
go.
Rampage, Gauntlet, Joust, and Defender in one giant package.
Yeah, but we already put the Defender one in S. But the Defender 40th anniversary, right? Didn't we put that up in S?
Yes.
Oh no, it's right there. Okay, put that Rampage cabinet in A. Down, right? And put that Defender cabinet that had all the other games in it up a little bit. Up. Middle. Yes, there. Put that in S. Throw that sucker up there. 12 games.
12 games. 12 games. Always 12 games. All right, so now we're going to speed run this.
Let's rock and roll.
All right,
let's do it.
Centipede mixed with Missile Command and two other games.
B.
Subscribe and do the thing.
Next up is the Super Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition
A.
cabinet.
Sorry, Mecca. Chime in whenever.
That's fine. I'm gonna say.
Galaga and
Galaxian. A.
I mean, Galaxy is a fun game. That's a shooter, right?
Yes.
Sure,
Final
I'll go with
Fight,
it.
the cabinet with the other games along with it. 1944.
Final Fight.
Final Fight is a good game series. It has Hager and everything. That
This is an S tier cabinet. I'm going to be honest with you on that one.
Why?
Yeah. 1944 is a fun shooter too. Yes.
All right, this is
Wait,
a Marvel one.
how is-
Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel superheroes,
Oh,
X-Men,
S.
and
that has the first Marvel's Capcom game.
Yeah.
Is that
S.
good to you guys?
yeah,
That's an S.
So that's an S.
it's nice.
So you basically counting every Marvel's Capcom game as an S,
All
basically.
right, this is
It
the
has to.
this is the Star Wars cabinet with the Empire Strikes Back and something else.
And Return of the Jedi.
It's-
That's the arcade ones.
Yes.
B. They were great, but B.
Yes, we have played an NBA Jam arcade cabinet. Again, look at this. It's in the S tier. Oh wait, no, it's in the A tier. I can't.
It's in the A tier.
Yeah.
It's A. It is fun. It is wonderful. It's great to play with another friend, but S is taking it just a tad too far. Just a hair too far.
Just a hair too
Better
far.
than every other thing game
All right,
on there.
next up is the Atari Star Wars. Just the Atari Star Wars.
Atari Star Wars. What games are those?
Just
It's just
that.
Atari Star Wars. Put that sucker in. Well, at the time, oh yes, NBA Jam is amazing. You are correct.
Yes.
Put it in C. And the only reason I say C is because people become nostalgia blind for that version of the Star Wars game, and it's wonderful, but it has to remain a C.
We have another championship edition of Street Fighter, but this is less games than the other one, so I would put this
B.
in B.
Street Fighter 2 in general is a fun game. It's very classic.
Oh, Burger Time.
Burger time. Does it have root beer tapper?
It
No, it
should.
doesn't.
I wish it did, but no, it doesn't.
Nope.
That's
I would
Burger
say-
time.
As
Which one?
As Caveman, Archaea, Bad Dudes, and
C.
see, yeah.
See,
That is a C grade cabinet. That is
Okay.
for people who have had too much of the duchy
while going to the bar and have since only recalled that was the only arcade cabinet that was in the vicinity of 27 miles.
Hey guys, the golden axe cabinet.
Golden Axe, like the Genesis game?
Yeah.
You want to put that in A?
I would put it in B.
I'll put it in B. Yeah, put it in B.
I didn't. I know that was an arcade game. Fucking idiot.
I like B.
All right,
B is fun.
Street Fighter 2, just Street Fighter 2. This one I'll put in C.
Yeah, because it's just the one game.
It's just the one game.
I mean, keep in mind, like,
Killer Instinct, the fighting cabinet. With Battletoads, by the way.
With Battletoads?
With Battletoads.
oh,
Automatic B.
Is this the recent Killer Instinct game, or is this
No,
just
no,
No, it's the 95 version.
Oh, because does the Killer Instinct already have Battletoads?
Space
The recent
Ace.
Kinda. Space Ace? C. No. D. Sorry, Space Ace D.
It did literally.
You and your confusing timed controls.
Oh my god. All right,
What is
next up
that?
is Frogger, Terra Blast, and something Pilot 84.
Frogger itself gets probably an A. Honestly, I just love Frogger. It's a fun game.
Really? Ooh. Okay. All right. I'll give you that. All right.
It's very.
Yeah, it's fun for my 5-year-old son. I'll put it as an A just for him.
Next up is
That's really-
Dragon's Lair.
Sorry.
B.
B?
No.
Me,
D.
No?
B?
D.
You don't like that?
No,
game?
you
Why
know what?
like
No. Space Ace is a D.
Yeah.
Dragon's Lair is a solid C.
Okay.
But it came out in the 80s. It has great animation for its time.
Oh yeah, look,
Yeah,
Don Bluth and his team did everything that they could to make it look like you were actually playing an animated cartoon, an animated movie.
Everything.
Absolutely, yes. But man, if you didn't know exactly when to button input, it was just like, come on, you know what I mean? It was just kind of dragged out like more quarters, and I'm just like, nah, I can't. Just so for its time, you know what? Okay, here, Mecca, I'll give you a mulligan. Let's put it in B just because of its wow factor at the time. Let's put that in B.
Agreed. Okay.
Agreed.
All right, next up, we're going to be doing Mortal Kombat 2. It's just Mortal Kombat 2. I'm going to put it in B because
B. Yes. B.
We have-
It is the solid Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Out of the ones listed, but just the one game in it. No.
I don't know what this game is right here.
Let me wait.
It's an Atari
looks
game.
like-
It looks like Missile
yeah.
Command.
It looks like
It
Missile
is Missile
Command.
Command.
Missile Command alone has to go in C.
Yep.
You don't like
Because-
Missile Command?
Well, Missile Command. Well, here's the thing about Missile Command. Missile Command was wonderfully revolutionary for its time with a trackball and trying to aim and everything, but it got boring quickly. People figured out the pattern, and that's why in High Score, as they demonstrated, it had to be modded.
Yep.
So it was all right, not the best.
All right, next up, we have the Marvel cabinet of Marvel vs. Capcom. Oh, wait, this is just a repeat.
It's just a repeat.
We just put this where it belongs.
Throw that sucker back into the S
It's
category.
the same one.
It is different games.
No, they're
it's
all
the
the same.
one, just a different design.
It's a different design of the cabinet.
All right, next up is the Outrun game. We have two different ones.
Outrun?
We have
Oh
two
my
different
gosh.
ones.
All right. The sit down
Like-
goes in S, the stand up goes in A.
They were really good.
They even
Oh
those
my
two different versions. One sit down, one stand up. That's clever.
That's all it was. That's the only difference. It's the same game, but but the one to sit down, oh, good. What's that one?
Ridge Racer.
Ridge Racer. So I had to do it.
Where do you want to put that, Mecca?
I haven't played it honestly. I guess. I can't speak
okay.
of it.
Ridge Racer goes in B.
I
Ridge Racer is wonderful, but Outrun just did the feel of driving a car in the arcade so much better for the time.
just Space Invaders, which I'll put in B.
I say C, 'cause Space
Just
Invaders
because
is
there are
fun.
invader houses everywhere in Japan.
Next up
Was
is
it Terminator
Terminator
House
2,
again? It's funny you
Terminator
have
2
a-
Judgment Day.
Nah, I heard
The
it's-
shooter?
Yeah.
A. There's an A. And
Tron.
is that Tron?
It's Tron.
Oh my gosh, Tron. All right, hold on.
The
All
game the movie based on.
Yes, it's based off the movie
Yeah.
Tron. Being the nostalgia alchemist, I have to restrain myself and put it in B.
Good choice.
Put it in B.
So,
just
choice.
just leave
first
it.
the game or the movie.
What?
The Tron was the movie first, then the game.
Yes, movie first, then
First in
game.
the game.
Ooh, that looks pretty.
Yep, we got our arcade cabinets.
Yes. All
All right.
right.
So that was
I
the
was
final
out
tier
there.
list that we did, by the way, because
Amazing.
I had to do at least 3 different types of tier lists for this. Our third person shooters for a subcategory, our other category, which was light shooters, but those are big and prominent in arcades. So I kind of felt bad leaving them out. And then also our arcade cabinets themselves for the arcade shooters / arcade games.
It's
So
the best arcade game, Donkey Kong.
this is why we're trying to do all of this now. But guys, final thoughts on our discussion of subgenres.
Yes. Oh my gosh, bringing it way back to an hour before. Mecca, do you have any thoughts off the top of your head?
You really wind up the my sense of genres. Like at first I thought it was gonna be arcade shooters and whatnot, but then you're like, nope, surprise, it's actually this. It's like, okay, that makes more sense.
I had to.
Well, yeah, because you're a troll, apparently. That's not my worst. Someone said in the group chat. No, it makes me think like specifically how many games have actual shooting mechanics in them, or like some of them don't technically count as them. It just makes me think about it. To be honest, it's one of those things where like, how much can you break down a game to its core? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of what you see with Resident Evil. It's people would just classify it as a horror game, but then you'd be like, no, it's a horror game with third-person shooter aspects, and they'll keep breaking it down, and it's like a good way to know, like sure, this game is classified as like an adventure game or a platforming game, but it has hints and DNA of this or that in a more broader sense. So
It's kind of like doing an ancestry report on a game.
yes, essentially, I always wanted to do as a kid. To be
That is a great analogy.
It also makes me realize I need to brush up on my gaming skills because I need to play more third person and arcade cabinet games and whatnot. But now I'm kind of curious about other games that are technically shooter games. To be honest, there's a gun or a projector and a person themselves. So I took over the conversation, Jeremy.
You're good. Jeremy?
Yeah. Final thoughts. I think, just like I said before, I think that we healthily debated cohesively the topic. I think that we nailed a lot of wonderful points. I think that we've reached a lot of conclusions where we can agree to disagree. But I think that for the overall viewpoint of this discussion, we did nail down what a shooter in the third person point of view could be. Not what it should be, but what it could be. Because I think we unlocked a lot of potential to discussing the subgenres. We've opened up a way to say, can we take X and mix it with X? And for most of the time, we said yes. We could do a lot of things with shooters, where it be platformer, RPG element, or puzzle element, and have it work to an advantage based on the player, the style, the preference. So there definitely is a shooter out there for everyone. And I think we nailed it.
It really makes me think more about shooters because people would just think shooters are just like games that have a gun in them. Really, anything with a long range attack can be classified as a shooter. Sure, like you could be very anal and nitpicky about it. It's like, well, you could shoot a beam as well. Does that make it a third person shooter? Like, no. But like, it's like shooters are more than just I have a gun, I shoot people with it. It's more like, how do you deal with them with the gun, or do you deal with it with whatever weapon you have?
If primarily it's a gun, it's mainly a shooter. If it's a gun.
It's kind of like that Point Blank game I was talking about earlier, where like people would just assume a arcade shooter just be like, I shoot the zombies, I shoot the people, I shoot the terrorists or something like that. But really, it's like the game is just based on like mini game selection like that. So it took a core concept, which is just shooting in an arcade cabinet, and I kind of spin with it. I don't know if that's equivalent, but it's basically what I'm thinking.
Well, I'm gonna give out my final thought, and then we're gonna find a person to attack. I mean, raid. I mean, love diligently and go crazy with, and hype up their night because that's what we love doing. We love hyping other people's nights too. So before we go into that, I am going to go. Wait, let's see if actually. Hold on.
I was just gonna say your point though.
Hold on.
Hito?
I am gonna say my point, but hold on a sec. I know who I'm choosing. Anyway, my final thought.
But he'll leave soon.
My final thought is that the breakdown of our subcategories and the trolling that I have committed from doing third-person shooter / arcade shooter as the initial start of this was because of the fact that I wanted to see how far the breakdown could go with everything. And I thought, hey, someone from the newer perspective and someone who is the philosopher of nostalgia themselves would be the good company for this debate because of that. And essentially, all in all together, we, like I said before, pulling an ancestry report on each of these games and what its breakdown and makeup is all essentially what it's there. I can say Assassin's Creed is a platformer, but it's only 1.4% platformer as opposed to everything else it is. I can say Cuphead is a shooter, but it probably makes up about 12.5% of what it is to the platforming and basically running gun and survival. Because it also counts under that Toho Project type game as well, and those games that are basically bullet storms. These are examples. But overall together, every game has its own DNA track, and just because it's 1% or 5% of something does not exclude it from what it is. And that's what I like to think. Like, it's the makeup of the game that's very important. And honestly, I'd see that as much more important than anything in this world. The makeup. All right. So.
Makeup being like what you think creates the game or the skeleton or something?
Basically, it's DNA.
Yeah, it's DNA. Yeah.
Like what you want
put
the main
Hito.
game to be, basically, versus like you add this in to be different or something.
Because mind you, like I said, it's like an ancestry report. Like you're looking at every single piece of bloodline, no matter from where you are, it's there. But we're going to raid our good friend Ashuri Yuki, who's playing Resident Evil 2, a third-person shooter. So
that was the remake or the
Perfect.
original?
I think the remake, but still counts under this situation.
It does. It does.
Ashuri Yuki, we are sending this love to you. Here is our sub rate of 1 bit. And
Hito, thank you for having us.
definitely a fun time having you guys over.
Yes, it was fun.
We're always in the bear cave playing games, talking crap, and you know what? Sitting down, getting comfy, and eating all the snacks. All right, let's give all that 8-bit love to Ashuri Yuki now. So, 8-bit love, have an awesome rest of your night, everyone, and have a good one. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Yay.